Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's time yet again for the OWC predictions. We've got a little bit of a stream upgrade this time around. Start by introducing our wonderful guests left to right. We've got another OWC co-host in ChillierPear. Also, I think your second year being here, right?
Ayo, yep.
Also got Dio, who's now casting OWC this year, finally.
Finally here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we've also got this one guy. Again, I think your third year here, I think this time as well.
At least second. My memories of 2019 are busy.
Yeah.
At least second year.
And of course, we've got Bubbleman.
I can't remember how long it's been.
I think for you, I'm sure it's the third year, because I think the first time we did it with like Apraxia and some other people, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you being there. So yeah, so we've got a couple of stream upgrades this time around. Before we get into anything, I'd like to thank Pepe and Flight for allowing us to use these assets, and as well as ChillierPear, who mostly just assigned everything, just about everything you're seeing. So shout outs to those three. And apparently audio issues. Okay, should be better now, hopefully. Format is a little bit different as well. Last time we've had tier lists for all 5 people on screen. Now we're all just going to be condensing all of them into one, and we're going to be showcasing our own picks like this. So yeah, we're going to I think we're good to start going. I don't know if you guys have any comments before we start going. We're going to go in alphabetical order as always.
Good to go.
Good to go. All right. Well, one more thing that's new on the stream. We've got the rosters as well as their changes. So here's Argentina, who's keeping 6 of their players and making two changes. What are we thinking?
Argentina is a decent but not great team, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think we have to keep in mind there's 51 teams. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There's
a lot of
51 teams
here.
this year. Yeah, last year there was 48. So there's 3 new teams.
Which is very cool, I think.
Yeah, I think the roster is still. It's so relatively similar that I don't want to put them very differently from how they placed last year, and at the same time, I think that they are like significantly better than a lot of the teams that probably won't qualify this year, but they're not a lot better than some of the teams that I think will go 0-2. They're not a lot worse also than I think from some of the teams who will go 2-2. So I would personally put them where I have them 17-24, but well, actually, it looks like just about everybody's on. Bubbleman.
Yeah. I'm winning. Let's go. Argentina.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. They're one of those teams
I
where
can't.
yeah, they showed up.
I can't imagine them not doing well. I think they'll do better than we give them credit for, but I don't think they're high tier enough to go past top 16. Maybe I think top 16 at a stretch, because
I don't think
they have some really good players, and they have some players that have been really slept on a little bit in tournaments this year. I know there's a couple of, I think it was Emery Ukino that asked me to play with them, and I never got around to it, but that was the start of this year, and I haven't seen them in a tournament since then. That's the thing. That's why I bring that up.
I think they're pretty much just like last year again, where they probably lose in first round winners and they probably win in first round losers, and then they lose in second round losers. Like, I feel like that's just the most likely course of action for that sort of the skill level that is expected out of their team. There's this like giant delta, I feel like, between like there's teams that won't qualify and there's teams that lose in the first round, and they're better than, like you said, they're better than all those teams, but not by like some humongous margin.
all right. Well, I think we're just about all in agreement.
Yeah.
Now, here's one of the more interesting ones. We're gonna do this again every time. Let's talk about Australia.
All right.
All right. Okay.
This
So,
is always the fun
Who
one.
wants to start?
all right.
No,
I'm just gonna.
this
I'm
year.
gonna do it again. I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. I think they're good, dude. We just saw Emrek pop off so hard in Corsairs. I think it's the year.
I think the problem is, yes, they have the best player in the world currently on their team, but one player does not win you a tournament in a 4v4 like OWC, where it's, you know, limited to one country per roster. I feel like they're just gonna fall back to where they go every year. Like, there's like a chance of them getting top 3, but there's also a chance of them, you know, getting top 8 somewhere. Like, I feel like you just don't know, and I don't want to dog the boys, but their history kind of precedes them in OWC.
Their roster switches aren't quite there either, though. Like, if you look at the switches there, they are very solid. There's 3 good players that they have switched in, but they also did lose a couple of players that were heavy hitters on the roster, and most of the other players haven't improved to a significant value besides what we've seen out of MREX. So the question is that, like, little slip up that they have every year, even with the improvements, I don't think it's enough to push them quite that high.
I think
there's important context as to the other teams that would normally be placed above Australia, which I think we'll get to eventually, which is, I think, personally why I'm putting them at 3rd.
I also think, though, that there are some other teams that people might not be super aware of that are very strong this year. I actually have 2 teams in 3rd, 4th that we're going to get to fairly soon that I think are going to be really heavy hitters this year that people wouldn't normally look to put even in top 6. So I think there are other teams that got way better this year. There's a lot of teams that got worse, and there's a lot of teams that kind of stayed the same and kind of got a little bit worse. I think Australia is one of the teams that got like a little bit better, but I think that the top brow teams are still enough to beat them out, and like Aaron said, their history kind of precedes them. This is a roster that continually finishes top 5, 6 and doesn't really break the top 4 barrier.
All right, so we have to just for the record, we do have to come to a collective agreement for these, and we'll probably retroactively change a couple of the teams if there's like too many overlaps. So we do have to decide on one spot.
I think 4th seems like the average.
4th seems like the average here for me as well.
4th seems a very safe average. I think, I haven't given my opinion yet. I think Australia are going to falter a little bit this year. Machine has been relatively AFK from tournaments, and I honestly haven't seen anyone except Emrek and some of the new players, Vivace and Suffix, actually playing tournaments that often, or even taking them seriously. I know ANZT was a thing, but I didn't follow that too closely. I think people did play in it, but on the way that, I don't know, just from the way that they've stepped back from tournaments and been generally inactive this year, I think, yeah, their players have gotten better. Their roster looks pretty alright on paper. I don't think they're going to play as well as we expect them to, even considering we're expecting like 5th, 6th or above.
Okay. That is fair.
I mean,
I do think the average
where that can happen.
Average, I think, is going to be 4th, though. And again, if there's any overlaps later, we'll go back and decide. We'll do like a tiebreaker, you know, if there's 2 4ths or something like that. We'll see as we keep going. Up next, let's look at Austria, which is having a lot of new players this year. Only 2 people that have coming back. Of course, Fedora Goose, always here. Sparksy as well. I think it's like his 4th or 5th cup. So it's not a name we usually think of. Yeah, it's his 4th World Cup, so kind of a veteran.
I don't know if these are positive changes past a certain couple players here.
Losing Tepi and Mika is so huge for them. I mean, they don't have a lot of top players in their country to begin with, and they lost 2 of the best and replaced them with relative nobodies. I think they barely qualified last year, right? They qualified like bottom 3 last year. So I think when you downgrade your roster after barely qualifying the year before, I'm sorry, but I actually don't think they get through this year.
And one other thing is also there are way more teams this year. There are 51 registered teams. When you
that is true.
Changes that are net negative overall, I think I absolutely agree. They probably don't qualify this year. Is where I would put them.
I think one thing that I keep in mind whenever we're trying to determine if we think a team is going to qualify or not is that the pool is still kind of hard, and a lot of the teams that are on the lower end of the tournament don't have a lot of like really high-end players, you know, like they have a lot of they have like full teams, but they don't have like a carry that, you know. This team kind of does, so it's like I could see like one or two, even like three players on here like kind of show up enough and do enough of a good job to qualify. I think that's an advantage over some of the other teams who don't have that luxury.
While saying that, I still don't think they qualify. I don't think Fedora Goose, as incredible as he is really enough to carry that team through to a qualification. Tomodoy returns after a year break, but I don't think he's enough to round out the team as well as we would want it to be rounded out. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get through.
They do lose a little bit, but look at it this way, especially we're going to mention a lot that there is more teams this year. Think about it this way. There is only 3 more teams that showed up this year from last year. And quite frankly speaking, about most of the teams that have been added this year are not going to be competitive in the qualifier stage based on the rosters they've put up. So I wonder if that's just a negligible metric, at least, especially for these teams. Generally, if a team qualified the year before, they don't make that massive of a change. But, you know, some of these unknown players, I feel like, have been putting the work in for a lot of these countries, too.
All right, well, we do kind of have a majority for not qualifying, so we'll leave it at that for now. Moving on now.
I would love to see them qualify because Austria are just lovely in general.
I would too, yeah.
I don't know.
There's a limited amount of slots. Let's take a look at another country who's, I think, in a pretty similar situation. Let's take a look at Belgium, who's also swapping 3 players this year. But again, a lot of the same people that you would expect to see.
Didn't qualify last year.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Huge improvements this year. They had to do some last-minute farming to get at least one of their players into the rank range to be eligible. Yeah, they just don't have, I don't think, the skill cap, even because, like we said, the qualifiers are like quarterfinals-ish starting. I don't think they have the skill cap. They'll be near the edge. They'll be like, I think, between 32 and 36 again, but
yeah, I think
they can really improve on that.
I think they were like 34th last year, 33rd or something like that. I think they were
just
really
below.
close.
Yeah, they were just below.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, like, shoutouts to like Hanori and Five Yoshi, who are like mainstays of that team and have been and F-Blade as well, who've been really long-standing members and who've played in a ton of tournaments. But I just don't think they really have the roster, unfortunately.
Losing MetaB was not a positive note for them either.
Yeah,
so
Also that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd probably DNQ. Yeah.
Okay. All right, here's one that's always interesting, I think. Let's take a look at Brazil. Again, swapping 3 people. I don't think there's too many losses. Nissan obviously was huge for them, but I don't think, like, if you look at the people that played last year, I don't think Tusk and Dada were doing much, I think, in that team. So I think relatively a pretty similar team.
Tusk has definitely stepped up, though, this year, right?
Yeah.
Tusk is a lot better now than he was, and not having him on the team is crazy. Same with Nissan. Where are they? Why aren't they on the team?
Nissan is playtesting, so that's
Nissan's
he cannot exactly play.
That's where he is.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. Tusk for Defons, while they have different skill sets, Defons is an extremely capable, mechanically skilled player who is at least a perfect transition from Tusk, if not an upgrade by this point. And X-Kirito is, you know, Dada has been a pivotal player for the longest time in like the lower rank range tournament scene, but I think as of last year, he started to fall out of touch with the game a little bit. Things are getting a little bit more difficult in these early stages, and X-Kirito may hold up that role a little bit better than they want.
So
Defons and X-Kirito are both improvements to the team, I think, like, unequivocally. The biggest problem for me is that they lose so much skill cap without Nissan. Like, he was one of their top 3 late round players last year, so that's a big hit, I think, to their ability to put up at least like 1 or 2 guaranteed good scores in the late rounds. It's like it makes it harder to predict, but I think they fall a little bit from last year.
I also think one thing to consider is the motivation without Nissan there and not having one of the players who's been a mainstay on the roster. Like, from talking to some of the players on Brazil's roster, I get the feeling that the overall team morale is not super good. And when that happens, when you also have a lot of teams who have made positive changes to the rosters around the same area, or when you have teams who still have a lot of their mainstays, even if they have made some, you know, not fantastic changes to the roster, I think that downgrades the team another level, which is why I have them where I have them compared to some of the other teams.
All right. Any extra comments?
I think everything's been said. I love Devon's to bits. He carried us through Suigi, but I can't really place them
He was
higher
so
than
good
like
on that
9th,
team,
12th.
yeah. Oh my
It's
God.
still an excellent result, right? Like, top 12 is, I think,
It
is
is,
still
yeah.
really hard to do in
Yeah.
WC. So
Yes.
I think it's always super contested too. There's always like a bracket. I imagine there's like USA and Germany, I guess, at the top most of the time, and then there's like a bracket of like 4 teams that you're like, okay, they're probably top 6 or around there, and then there's a bracket of like fucking 12 teams or something that are probably top 8, but we don't know. Like, there's just so many of them that can compete for that spot.
Yeah.
So it's really complicated, I think. But we'll start with 9-12 for now. Maybe we adjust later on. Moving on now to a brand new team. Let's take a look at Cambodia. I personally don't know anyone on this team. I don't know if you guys do.
Yeah.
It's nice to
Yeah,
see
no.
some new teams around, but I mean, not much to say on our end, I think, right?
Is this the first time they've appeared in OWC?
Wait. Possibly.
Yes,
It's the first
it
time I
is.
recall
It is.
Across any mode? I'm not entirely sure about any mode, but definitely OWC itself, which is really cool to see.
I feel like I've seen the name Yusaku around before, but I just don't know enough about the player, and I haven't seen the name enough to even be sure that I've like really seen the name and I'm not just confusing it for somebody else who's similar. But besides that, yeah, there's nobody I'm familiar with on this team. I think we're agreement.
I think whenever we do this, I always kind of like hope we're all wrong, and like just maybe like
Somebody call
these guys are really good,
cool.
you know? Like, I think it would be really cool to see. But Yeah.
I mean, you never want to stick them down there that early, but I mean, with the prowess of some of his
Yeah.
teams this year, and the fact that even countries with well-established tournament players like, you know, Belgium are making it into that do not qualify, you know, the first year experience team is not always going to push it.
yeah. All right, moving on now. Let's
Awesome
take a
to
look
see
at
that.
Canada, who's
It's an
swapping
interesting one.
5 players. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna
Big
say whenever the news of this initially came out, I think like for like the top level teams, I guess we finished 3rd place last year, so I consider us to be a top level team. 5 players is like the most ever for like a top like 4 team that's been swapped. A lot of people are swapping 4, but 5 is unheard of so far, I think. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think last year was I say this with all the love in my heart for you, Alex. I think last year was a little bit of a lightning in a bottle moment that I don't think will happen again with this team this year. I don't think that the late round is quite there the way it was last year, and I don't know that that team can necessarily perform at the level they did before. That being said, there's a lot of skill on this team. There's players who will absolutely do really well. Some of the new players are really good. But the first time OWC experience and a little bit of a drop in, I think, overall skill cap, I think drops them down probably to around the top 6 instead of top 3.
There's an important point I think is important. It's really important. The whole reason, like literally the entire reason why we got top 3 is because if you look at the people last year, all the people that are gone except myself, that's a speed abuse team.
Yeah,
They're not here
You guys
anymore.
got
Yeah.
such a
We
good
we
bracket.
won off of speed abusing. That's
Yeah.
potentially not as much of an option anymore, right? Not I don't know. There's a lot of players I'm personally not even familiar with at all. Like, it's my first time really seeing like Curtis and Muffin Slayer at a high level, right? I'm aware that they're very good. I don't know if they're going to be as speedy as Ryan, Stoof, and Trev were, but yeah, I don't know. I think they're still probably just as good, but I think they lose that edge that allowed us to get to top 3 in the first place.
I think you lost a lot of tournament experience as well. If you look at that left-hand roster right there, you have players that were multi-year participants for this team for a very long time. Switched out for players who are with the exception of one or two of them, pretty new to tournaments by any stretch of the imagination. And when you are looking for that experience, that skill cap, that consistency that you need to see from these teams that are pushing for, top 8, top 6 placements, you have to consider, and I don't want to jump the gun a little bit here as well, the teams that placed in that top level positions last year. You have teams like the United States pushing for it again. You have Germany pushing for it again. Australia is most likely going to make a push for it. And you have teams like even, the UK who have made big improvements from their rosters in, previous years that are going to be pushing for maybe that top 6 spot again. So you've got a lot of competition up there that is hard to hang with.
Yeah, I'm very clearly the outlier here.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I have the team where I do. It's mostly for tournament experience reasons. Xylus has been, I think Xylus is the one trade on this roster that is similar in tournament experience, just because he's played like every single tournament that has released this year, right? He's played everything. And he is very clearly filling the same sort of role as somebody like Ryuke last year. Also has some good hidden reading as well, so maybe maybe not quite as speedy as Ryuke, but in general still a very solid trade-off there. I don't think it's a necessarily positive or negative trade. I think everybody else is a relatively big downgrade. Props to Vesprit for putting up tournament performances where he has. Props to Muffin Slayer for putting up really solid regional tournament performances as well. But I know Jeremy has not played like a significant amount of tournaments at the late stage as of recent this year. Curtis was a rank restricted only tournament player until recently. I love my boy Curtis. Love the speed scores from him, but I just don't think that the experience is there. I don't think that the skill cap is there to deal with when you get to some of the later rounds, the consistency coming out of some of the more well-rounded, more mainstay-filled teams that are going to end up filling the top 12. And we talk about it a lot, how competitive it is to get into top 12 in the bracket. And I just don't think this team has it this year.
What about Bubbleman?
Yeah, I'm an outlier on the other direction. I think Canada are a real dark horse in the sense that, yeah, sure, they've switched out their Speed Abuse roster, but they have the mental game. Like, everyone on Canada knows everyone on Canada, right? And I'm sure the spirit in the team comms is just going to be sky high at all times. They could be, like, 5-0 down in a best of 11, and they'll be going, oh, it's tiebreaker time, come back, I think they are not going to want for, morale, and that's really going to be their boon. They've got a lot of high end, and I've played with a few of the Canadian roster in tournaments this year, and they have popped off. They have they've put up scores that are insane.
I think Canada cheats a little bit with they have a 9th-man roster because Ignite is here every week.
That is true. That is true. See, they're not going to want for morale.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a team rather than having these standout names that put up these big performances. I think it's going to be a team, and for a team tournament, that's kind of what you need.
That's very fair.
Fair enough. Yeah.
All right.
All right, still average on 5-6 though, so we'll leave it at that for now. Moving on now, let's take a look at Chile. Also swapping 3 players, although I think Daniel's played before several times. I think some people might be familiar with Gonza, I think. Are either of you familiar with Gonza?
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Gonza.
Yeah.
I co-hosted Chile's OWC tryouts alongside Intercamping this year, so I have quite a lot of insider information on this team. If I were basing it just based off of skill cap alone, I think they can contest top 2. I think because of inexperience on a lot of the newer members, they're not going to be able to control the nerves very well, and so they're not going to get into that type of performance. But Gonza's one of the best players on the team, behind Intercamping Mathy. So this is a team with Dark Horse single players, and with 2 players in Intercamping and Mathy who are solo carries in their own right. So I do not think it's unreasonable at all especially with how fantastic Intercamping has been playing as of recent, like within the last 2 weeks or so, to place them as high as 4th or even higher, I think is even reasonable.
Wow.
I mean, I fully agree with that. I fully like. I
This is this is gonna be a hard one to place.
Yeah, I don't know Gonza. I would be lying if I did. Daniel comes back after a 4-year hiatus. He is the oldest member of the Chile team because Matthew joined in 2017, Daniel joined in 2016. Yeah, they have crazy players, and I didn't think that it would ever be said about Chile that they would have crazy players, because for all of the time that I've been involved with the World Cup, been a player, been staff member, Chile have always underperformed. They've always been a high seed, high ranks, you know, high skill cap team, and they faltered at groups when groups were the thing. They fell really early on in tournament now that qualifiers are a thing, and they've always kind of come up short. But this year, I think Matty stepped up, Intercambing stepped up. They have a well-rounded roster, and they're gonna pop off. It's their time.
Where do we place this then? Is this a 5-6? I think it's like in the middle.
I think 5-6.
It looks like it's 5-6.
Damn. Aaron, you are very quiet, my guy.
Very.
That is even worse than before.
Everyone, shut up! He's talking. No, I don't know what you did. You were louder before, but yeah, I don't know. You're on max on my end, so not much we can do about that.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Sir, I
maybe
think
it's
you may have turned the knob the wrong way. It is super quiet.
Maybe you caused an integer overflow. Maybe it's too loud.
I don't know.
Oh lord.
Maybe we can figure it out as we move on, though.
Yeah,
So,
we'll get it. Yeah.
all right, let's clear these. Let's get into China. Also, a lot of roster changes. I think very, very, very notably losing 3 of, I think, arguably their best players, right? Crystal, GGBY, Lion Jomiku. Like, GGBY has been playing for so long at this point. This is the first World Cup GGBY is missing since the second one, which was what, like 2012? 2012. He has played in the previous 9 World Cups, and now he's missing the World Cup. So
The second one was November 2011, because the first one was February 2011.
I didn't even know that. I thought they were spread out a year.
And no, it's, the first one was spread over maybe 9 months, and then it became a yearly thing.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean,
go for it.
I miss Crystal. Is he playtesting?
Not Crystal?
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah.
It's a very recent development. He wasn't initially,
It
but
is.
I think he is playtesting as of this week. So I'm not sure if that's
That makes sense then.
related, but
I don't think it's related. I think he just happened to do it because he decided not to play this year. I think he very made a point to state that he was not going to play this year, so I think that
They
was
are
before.
going to sorely miss Crystal. They have other players who are really quite good at the game, but no.
I mean,
There are some on here, like for example, Joseph Joestar. I gotta shout out my boy Joseph Joestar, you know, fantastic member of the family. But no, for real, he's actually a very good like rank restricted player. He put up very solid performances in OMS Division 2 Grand Finals, which was a 3K tournament, which doesn't sound that high, but at the same time, the pool was like 7-star Nomad 1, probably comparable to like semifinals-ish in OWC, and he was still putting up full combos on that pool, so he very clearly has the skill cap in tournament to put up good scores. I think Strife brings a really solid addition on the Hard Rock to the roster. He is a very, very high skill cap precision player, actually, on Hard Rock, and I think he has some pretty good value that way to the team, but overall, yeah, I mean, there are just so many big names missing this year that it's hard to put them any higher than where they are, given all the rest of the fantastic teams.
Yeah, I think the downgrade
Without
as
Crystal,
well,
Crystal, man, I don't know.
Crystal
they don't
is
have Crystal.
big.
They just don't have Crystal, so it doesn't matter. Because
think
he
about it
was their
this way.
carry.
All of their other players have not improved over the past year in a noticeable amount as well. Like David and Kurumi have been on this roster for the longest time and have been super powerful players, or even Lolol, which is Milk Tea. They haven't really made big improvements in how they've been playing with their skill cap or consistency over the past couple of years. So you've got these stagnating roster with new players who don't really cover the skill cap that they've lost.
All right. Well, I think we're all about in agreement on that. Sorry if I'm on. Was I cutting you off, Bubbleman?
No,
You good?
no.
All right. Just trying to move forward because we got 51 teams. So
Right.
hopefully we're here for less than 3 hours.
Moving swiftly on.
Another pretty quick
yeah.
one, I think. Brand new team to the World Cup. Well, not brand new. I think they've played before, but wait, no, I'm wrong. No, I'm not wrong. Sorry, hold on. Let me double check this.
No,
they have
think
played
Or
before.
do you remember
They
this,
have played
Chiller? They've
before.
played a long
They-
time ago, right?
a long time ago.
Yeah.
They played last year.
They
they
played
did?
last year in
And tried to
qualifiers.
They did
qualify.
play last
Yeah.
year. That's right, yeah.
They were one of the lowest finishing teams last year. And can I just say, for my sake, as a qualifier, dear God, or as a commentator, I mean, dear God, I hope they don't qualify because I don't want to have to
Yes.
commentate 3 different players name the same thing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Man.
Elmic There are
I-
actually like
Almost
30
numbers
Elmics,
at that
by the way.
point.
There are 30 of them.
Oh my god.
There's
Oh, there
I
are
think almost all of
legitimately
them are from
30 of
Colombia
them.
as well.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
They go up to like 25 or something like that. I don't know exactly how many, but there are so many Elmics in Colombia. It's hilarious. It really is.
Yeah, I just don't want to have another like Dilson and Dyson situation to
Oh,
cast.
yeah.
So
yeah.
purely, literally the only reason I don't want them to qualify. That's the only reason. I don't even know the other players. I just don't want to deal with the L mix. I guess I don't know. Anyway,
Elmic gang.
moving on now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just don't think they're good enough to qualify. Like, that's not all there is to it. Yeah.
Straightforward. Let's take a look at Croatia now. Another team that did not qualify last year.
So Croatia was the team that finished last year, so hoping to improve on that. Another team that I don't want to qualify because I never want to have to commentate the name, the Fart Lord.
Well, you just did. You
What do
just
you mean?
did.
You don't want to cast the name? Come on.
Unlucky.
Something
Yeah.
notable, they do have a full 8-person roster this year, not 6
Could make a
like
difference.
previous years. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it could make a difference.
I don't think it'll make a difference for them qualifying, but I think they
Yeah,
will
I think
improve
it'll-
their placement.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it will make a difference to their placement, just not to
Yeah.
their qualifying chances. They're,
Yeah.
no way.
They'll do a little better, but they just don't have the skill in that nation, unfortunately, to put together a competitive roster.
Agree completely.
All right.
Yep.
Straightforward. All right. Let's take a look at the Czech Republic now, which I think barely did not qualify last year. I don't remember.
Right.
I don't know if you have the
They-
qualifier
I
results
feel like
pulled
they're
up. I don't.
always
They were like middle. They finished 37th last year, so they were 5-6 spots out of qualifying, however you look at it. This is a team that got a lot better this year, though,
Yeah.
man. Like
Yes,
Vilas, Mr. Nobody,
time.
Avenito adding to that roster. Hogger
Yeah.
CZ has been playing really well. Bloodbursting does well every year. Like, this is a team that improved a lot. I don't think it's enough to take them very far, but it's enough for them to qualify for sure.
Agree.
I think they might get 33rd.
Oh, no.
Solid prediction. Solid prediction.
Oh, you hate to
Honestly,
see
it's
it.
possible.
Really sorry.
It is possible.
Yeah, also MNB, another one of those names you love to. I think every time I've talked about that dude in a tournament, I just call him MNB because what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Letters, numbers.
Maybe there's
Yeah.
a proper way to spell it, but
Yeah.
You know.
we're never gonna find out. All right. I think there's some there's some worse defenders when we get to
Yeah, no, there's definitely. Yeah.
whenever we get to Taiwan. I think
Oh god.
you guys know what I'm talking
Oh,
about. Okay,
man.
we'll
Yeah,
get there.
yeah,
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
All right, let's look over Denmark now. 7 new players for Denmark.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Denmark this year is in an unfortunate position. This is like your worst case scenario. This is like a rebuilding year on steroids. This is
Trust the process.
every
Trust
single
the process.
every notable player on the roster from the previous year is gone. Now, granted, they have made some switches for players that are fairly decent. Katberger is very good. Van Dijk has been playing well lately, and I think some people might know who Pollier is in the middle as well. But I mean, other
Literally
than that,
the
you know,
three I was gonna say
yeah,
things
not even qualifying last year. I don't think it's enough to push them this year, but it could soon enough.
Sport Glover is to Denmark as Crystal is to China.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his first time since 2016 not playing.
I
Big loss,
missed
I
that
think.
dude. He was really nice to have around. That's such a huge loss for their team too. Just one of those really well-rounded players you could count on to get a good score on just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not having him is going to be big for that roster, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, let's now move on to Estonia, who did qualify, I think, just barely last year, but did not win a match. They're replacing 4 of their players.
Yeah. No Abyssal.
No Tiger
No
Claw.
No
Tiger Claw.
Ansem.
Yeah, that's really rough. Revel is actually pretty decent, but
Yeah,
the other 3
he
are
is, definitely.
like, complete unknowns in my book, so I think they fall off this year with the
I
changes.
agree. Yeah, there's just like there are just not, especially with the difficulty of qualifiers this year. I just don't think there is the skill cap among a lot of these players to deal with the qualifying maps. So it's similar to Colombia, where you have some players like the Elmix who are good tournament players in lower rank ranges, but are not going to be very solid right here.
The Elmix, all 25 of them combined.
All 32 of them actually.
Oh, my, oh,
32.
my bad.
Elmix, and
My
all of
bad.
them, all of them
That's
are
awful.
D-Rankers tournament players.
Cannot
So,
believe that.
Yeah, and they're I don't know if they're all from Colombia, but it's the
They-
vast majority.
He spent real money. He spent real money to do that.
I'm sure at some point support's gonna have a nice influx of emails. Hey guys, sorry we name changed. Please revert. All 31 of us.
Well, that's not
Anyway.
recent. They've been that way for years, actually. Not even
I've known
joking.
there's the
I'm-
one
hope-
Elmic. There's
hope
like
it
one
keeps
Elmic. I
going.
don't remember the original, but he's been around forever.
Probably
I
Elmic
must
1.
say, it was.
I don't know.
It was nice to see Tiger Claw play an OWC because he's been around in the tournament scene for years and years and years, and probably was one of the top tournament players at one point. So to see him finally get the chance to play in a World Cup was really quite nice. It was.
All right, let's get into Finland now. Also a lot of big changes. I think very notably, no freezed.
No freeze.
No freeze. No
No
air
freeze.
check. No
No
lucky,
shadoos.
Like no. Yeah.
no,
they,
all of them.
Yeah, they lost a
That's
lot.
true.
They like all those players are pretty notable. That being said, I mean they did bring in some talent. Like Ataraxia has been playing really well this year. Zepe has been doing pretty decently. Like they've got some decent players. I think it's a roster that's capable of qualifying. I don't know that they'll do any better than that, but they can definitely get their qualifiers with that team.
So I think I'm the outlier again. I have faith in Finland this
No,
year.
no, you're not.
No, I
there
don't
we
think
go. Thank
17.
you,
I don't
Bob.
think
No.
17 to 24 is
Yeah.
totally unreasonable. I mean, the cutoff between 17 to 24 and 25 to 32 is really not that big in terms of skill level.
No,
Yeah.
it's 1-2 versus 0-2. Ataraxia, Zepe, Amacetic are all extremely good players. I think most people watching Open Rank only probably will not know who Zepe and Amacetic are, but they are basically infamous around slightly lower rank ranges for just full comboing the majority of maps on 7-star map pools. So they absolutely have the skill cap to place high enough in qualifiers to maybe get a round of 32 win, if not at least to get a loser's bracket round 1 win by getting matched up against some of the lower seeded teams.
I mean, Amacetic had, before he farmed to join the rank range, because he was something like 6.5k before the or before the registrations closed, and he farmed in almost a day. But his top play was Speed of Link, second top diff with no mod. That was his top play.
That's kind of
That's
based.
pretty cool.
I did. I played.
Like,
I
dude,
played a...
if you don't trust a player like that with full comboing maps, then I don't know what you can trust. Having that as your top play, like rank 1 PP play, that screams D rank.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
The joke among 5K players is that you can win as many matches as you want and get to grand finals, and then you just play Zepe, Amacetic, and like 2 other people who just hang around there and just like curb stomp you in grands because they will full combo maps that you get 400k on a good run, and that's just kind of how it is. Like, these are players that very clearly belong in 1k or open rank and are just hanging around for the fun of it at that point. So yeah, I agree with Bubble.
They're absolutely going to pop off, I think.
So
Finland
I'll admit
are
I'm not
another dark horse.
I'm not super familiar with these newer players, so you guys got to sell me on which one it is. We've got the top 24 with 1 win. What about Chillier and Aaron? What are you guys doing?
I mean, I think it just depends on their matchup that they get, because I'm assuming they'll lose their first round matchup, but it'll literally just be a coin flip whether they get a team that's beatable or not in the first round of the losers, and I don't know. I hate coin flips.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's perfectly down the middle. Here's the thing. You have the 3 remaining players from last year in Hades, Bolex, and Hegselli, who are not all-rounders. They do not cover all skill sets with those 3. So there's your 3 remaining players on the roster. You have switched out a majority of your high skill cap, super consistency-based players from last year for 3 players who are good at the game and 2 players who don't have as much experience. It is going to, I think, come very heavily down to how Ataraxia plays. I think he is easily the best addition to this roster, given the players that they last year, which means it is falling... a lot of the work is going to depend on how he shows up in these early rounds. And if he's not able to hold his nerve, or he's got a rough day or something like that, I think that is the biggest difference between them pushing out of that 25-32 into 17-24. And I don't know if that's something this Finnish team wants in almost, what you'd call a rebuilding year with more than half their roster being switched.
So I agree that Ataraxia is definitely the best player who came onto this roster, but I also think that losing players with skill cap doesn't necessarily matter as much if the players who are replacing them are very good at qualifiers, round of 32 and round of 16 level map pools.
That is true.
Because if we're placing them 17th, 24th, then they're exiting losers bracket round 2 in quarterfinals. So they don't need to win a match on the quarterfinals pool. They don't need the skill cap for that. They just need the consistency on the lower star rating pools in round of 32 and round of 16 to at least get 1 win, either in round of 32 or losers bracket round 1. And when you have players who are consistently playing in grand finals, albeit in lower rank range tournaments, it's not quite the same thing as playing in the OS World Cup. But when you have players who are consistently putting up fantastic scores on map pools that are harder than round of 32, round of 16 in the OS World Cup, I don't think losing the skill cap in players like Jarakek and Hughes really matters all that much.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah.
Aaron, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I think 17-24 is achievable. So
it is. It's a wild card. I think.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable.
It's a wild card right here for that.
Right,
yeah.
So we'll wrap it at that. We've spent a good amount of time talking about them. So 17-24 it is. I mean, that's good. It's a contentious team. It's always nice to have a lot to say about teams that people don't normally mention or talk about that much about OWC, because if they're not like USA or Germany, a lot of people don't really talk about them. So it's good that you guys do. Let's move on now. Let's look at France.
This is an interesting one.
I'm excited for this. I'm very excited for this.
Longest hiatus of a player, I think, in World Cup history to this day is Ekoro. 8 years he's spent away from this. They have the old man team. Musty's been playing for 11 years. Ekoro played the very first World Cup. Nero has been playing since OWC 4, I think.
Been around for a long time,
yeah. Been around a lot.
They have the old man team, and Snorlax comes back after a 3-year break too. So
at the same time, though,
the world if this team had room, man. Oh my god, if
they would be good. They would be so good.
Oh,
top 8 maybe.
I agree with 9th to 12th.
Yeah, I think they put together a 1 player shy of the best roster they could have for this year. But that's where the people that aren't the absolute late round gods are gonna start to fall off. And so,
I mean, 1 big switch and the Ekoro difference between him and either Poki or Ryzen is absolutely massive. You're gaining a significant amount of skill there, and Snorlax is a very good replacement for either of those players as well. And then you have 6 players that are left over from previous years that just don't go down in skill. If anything, Justman has gotten significantly better over these past few months.
Justman has gotten better. Hitkill has been improving over the past while. I haven't seen much out of Musty, to be honest. That's one player that I feel like
Probably just always good.
Of as time has gone on, but he's always good. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But man, Ekoro is like one of the most hyped people I feel like coming into OWC this year. Like that people are really excited to see. So that's gonna be.
Like, if you're gonna get anyone for Ryzen, it's him.
I mean, he topped the French tournament. He won the 1v1 French tournament, like just from cold. So, and he wasn't playing on his setup either that entire weekend. I'm pretty sure.
I just always enjoy seeing Musty and Nero still play. Honestly, these are both players that I would play 1v1 tournament finals in like 2014, and they're still playing. And I think that's fantastic. I have so much respect for both of them. I'm glad they're still here.
Nero's still playing like community
the old man team,
like high level tournaments still.
YSC this year also. Like he's around. He's actually very active.
He's ready to fight.
Well.
All right, 9-12 it is. All right, it's big boy time. Let's take a look at Germany.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The team.
Yep. Okay, so
they're literally just as good this year as last year, and they added people that round out what they were weak on. So if anything, they may well be better, which is really scary because they were real damn good in 2020. Like, they're really good. They go like I feel like anything short of grand finals is an
there's no way they get below that.
Absolutely.
I think that's entirely the question, is whether they get first or second. I don't think anyone has any other. I think if anyone thinks they get any less than that, they're just wrong. Like it's.
They've gotten better. It's just a simple fact. I mean, there's so much improvement here.
They have the early round, they have the late round, they have the pop-off potential on multiple players. Like Okinamo, this year in Course Ace, FCing that hidden map, Justice proving he's still like insane at the game. He just doesn't get worse. I honestly don't know if it will ever get any better than this roster.
This roster's so good. And what's interesting is, was it, I think Neox, right, who FC'd 2 maps in grand finals last year, isn't playing this year.
Apparently it was really rusty.
Yeah. But Kriller is so good at so much
Kriller's
stuff that a lot of the other German players are not good at the stuff that Kriller is good at, which is really big because they had such a big weakness last year. Like anything like gimmicky, they just couldn't do.
Yes.
And Kriller helps them put together rosters for those types of maps way more easily, which is huge because his skill cap is super, super high.
Also, I think an important thing to talk about is KHC is like a fantastic like follow-up to Neox. You know, last year they were arguably the best speed team in the entire tournament, and they don't lose that. KHC is just as fast, if not even faster, right? So they still get that edge, and they still get to go super far.
FC,
he's got stamina that doesn't.
He's literally
end.
German Harrison.
Yeah, his stamina's just there.
We've got to decide though.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is the team. This is like if Germany was ever going to take their shot at first place, this is how they do it without question. This is the year.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree in general, but one thing that I think also matters is I don't think Whitecat has been as active in tournaments recently as he was last year around this time. Last year, well, of course it was his first tournament last year, but he was a very, very solid player. He was playing super actively a ton. And this year, I just haven't seen him with a ton of activity in general recently, so I don't know how well he measures up to where he was last year, because he was really, really solid for this team last year. He was absolutely their best performer, and I think if the rest of the roster is held even in general, then I'm not sure where that leaves them.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, as long as he plays actively during the course of OWC, that will not have changed at all.
I agree. I completely agree.
It's like Vaxe. Like, it doesn't matter if he's been playing or not, because he will get to the level that he needs to get to for the finals and grand finals. Like, it's not a concern.
Yeah, it's not like he stopped playing. It's not like he's stepped away from the game and has been doing absolutely nothing. He has still been playing. He's still been going through tournaments. He just played, Course Ace that just finished. He's been active throughout the tournament scene, so he is still a very viable carry for that team. You know, he lost the #1 spot in the world to someone who plays the game more actively than most other people do by a significant margin. And, you know, that's a big thing. So that push for first, I don't think is going to be dependent on him as much.
No, it absolutely isn't. They have such a rounded roster, and there's nothing that they can't do with that roster, I don't think.
Yeah, I think, like, Germany and USA are literally just 1A and 1B this year. I think it's almost like a foregone conclusion to expect that to be the grand finals, and whoever wins, it's going to be really close.
Yeah. It's like 99-1 odds that there's just no other team that's there.
Yeah.
Honestly, me too. Like, even when you look at the grand finals last year, like, no one
went to a tiebreaker.
Literally, no one credited Germany at all. Like, no one, other than maybe like German fans, maybe, but like no one like in the global scene really thought that they could do anything. And they went to tiebreaker. Like, they have an insane amount of potential that, if their team is an improvement this year, can certainly well be realized. And of course, like, USA is changing a lot of the people on the rosters. I think most notably Vaxe. We'll get to them eventually, but like, there's a lot. I think the whole like soup of context surrounding this year makes it the year for sure.
I think if Germany, like you guys said, I think that's the conclusion, is really if they're going to win it this year, it's this year. I think
I am going to be cheering Dustus's name as loudly.
Yes,
as
me too.
Yes,
me too.
What we've seen in the past few weeks. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dynamo as well has actually just been
And
popping off in tournaments recently.
Yeah.
His performance in Corsace was out of this world, man. That dude was just.
They got to do it for Dust Ice, man.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of team spirit, I think that's going, like I said with Canada, I think they're going to have the team spirit to push them over the line.
Yeah,
It's a team tournament, right? And everyone is meant to be on that team. Everyone knows each other on that team, and everyone is crazy good.
Yeah. And people don't talk about team morale
practicing,
enough.
scrimming. Yeah, it's gonna happen this year. It's absolutely gonna happen this year.
There you go.
All right.
All right, we have our winner. Everybody go.
Okay, see you guys.
We can-
Okay, all right. Let's move on now to Hong Kong. Placed top 12 last year. Again,
Yes.
big losses. Big losses. Chaos Lits,
this-
Nazar, Saku. Oof.
Yeah, man.
This hurts to look at.
No Chaos Lits, no CLP, man. It's just a different world without those guys on Hong Kong.
Hey, Minecraft 570.
A21 though has been doing pretty good.
4WC winner, A21.
Oh, this is almost their 4WC team, and we're not even going to talk about it. Like,
I mean, it's just historically like always been the quote-unquote D-ranker country. But I think other teams have gotten better, and I don't think they're better. So it's like they drop to the next tier, or at best stay in the same tier.
I think they. Well, I'm not going to say they have gotten better. I don't think they've gotten worse in relation to everyone else.
No.
They've got people who are playing tournaments quite actively. They've got Dragbit, A21, MCY Mix's return. Like, they have tournament talent, and they have players who will round out that roster. So I think 9th to 12th is a very safe bet for them, because somehow they always make it there.
I think
That's fair. I think they're always very underrated in OWC, to be fair.
yeah.
I think just
One other
based
thing
off
to talk
that,
about.
historically, I'm going to change my vote.
Yeah, also, generally speaking, like, this team, we said it, they're quote-unquote the D-ranker team, and one of the things that these players, even in open rank community tournaments where they tend to team together a lot, are very good at, one thing they pick into a lot, is really unconventional, gimmicky sorts of maps, and like, all of the players that got onto the team this year that replaced long-standing members are very good at that. We joke about Minecraft 570, but like, the dude has gotten very high placements in like grand finals of gimmick tournaments before. He's a very, very solid, like, really unconventional map player. Obviously, people know RLSC, Tiramuji, MCY4 were all on, I believe, the perennial team for the sort of Hong Kong squad in that tournament, and they all put up relatively solid performances. So I don't see them having a lot of teams that are strictly better than them at that skill set. That said, there's a very solid weakness, I think, in this team that can be abused by some of the more mechanically gifted teams, but you have to get to a certain level of skill before you're able to abuse that, and I don't think that's a ton of the teams in the tournament overall.
Here's where I'm coming from, and I know that T1G is kind of sitting with me at that 13 to 16. The reason I think they are going to do worse this year, they have made roster switches that aren't necessarily negative from last year. However, something that they are losing in significant numbers are those big carry performances that a team like this has to see when you start to push into those top 12 matches. Because yes, they're gaining the ability to utilize, the gimmick map skill sets, or maybe they have some speed with some of these players, but you lose Chaos Litz, you lose Denier, who are two people that can all-rounder into those top 12 rounds. Once you get into the top 12 teams in this tournament, being a good gimmick team kind of loses its value, because every team, or almost every team up there, has a good gimmick roster, or at least has their own skill set that they can abuse against this team. But with a higher skill cap in most cases with those carry performances. So I don't know if they maintain in that sense, which I think is the difference a lot of times between that 13-16 top 9-12.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're probably the weakest team in top 9-12 that I have, at least. And the, if I were to pick any team to remove from that and put down to 13-16 to trade one up, that would definitely be Hong Kong. So I agree. It's probably close between the two.
Aaron, anything else?
I think if I look at the list, I just see 12. I see 12 teams that I would put above them. So that's like just straight up like these teams I would put above them. So I put them. So I keep them in the tier. But I mean, if they get 9 through 12, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
It's like right on that edge.
I think we're all pretty much on the same page for that one then. Let's say
They're
12th,
both
or is it
around
anywhere
the
from
overlap.
12th to 14th, something like that.
Right around there.
Right there.
It's around about.
The middle ground, yeah.
I estimate they will finish 13.3.
Yes.
They do not get worse, and that's what they want.
Right.
Okay.
Alright.
Another, I think, relatively unknown team here. I think top 2 players on that list, most people that have been active in tournaments may be familiar with, but yeah, a lot of they didn't really get a full roster last year. They had Hungary had 6 players, so they do have a full 8, so maybe that changes something. Do you guys know their seeding from last time?
I will check. Hang on. They were. I have the qualifier results up here somewhere. 44th last year. So they finished
That's near the bottom.
They finished above 4 teams. Two of which we've already discussed. Colombia and Croatia. Yeah, that was very low.
Yeah, that was
and
4
I
from
just
the
don't. Yeah, I just don't think they have the skill to get through qualifiers. I don't know. There's that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, another team, fantastic for them that they have made that push from, a 6-person roster to the 8-person roster, but, it's kind of what you mentioned for the last team with Hong Kong. Like, you can envision 32 teams that will qualify above them, and given the fact that we need a total of 19 teams that don't qualify this year, I don't envision, them being out of that grouping.
Okay, all in agreement. So let's move on now. I think I think the dark horse.
One.
Let's look at Indonesia.
Yeah.
The definition of dark horse, I think.
Yeah.
This is one of the interesting ones.
Indonesia's like really good.
Yeah.
I think Indonesia's really good this year. I mean, they got kind of blown out by Australia in losers round 5 last year, but like up to that point, man, and they've only gotten better this year with adding the players that they added. This is I don't know if I can put them in top 4, but I think top 6 is definitely viable.
Indonesia top 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't,
yeah,
I
no.
don't see a world
Too
where
much.
that happens. Much like how
Don't
I
think
don't
that's
see a
gonna
world
happen.
where
Way too
Chile
much.
finishes 4th, but I think top 6, top 8 is definitely achievable for this team. I mean, top 8 was what they got last year, and they are as good as, if not better than last year. So, they did go to a tiebreaker with China last year. To answer a question from chat, they won over China in tiebreaker losers round 4.
That's pretty good for them.
And they also infamously speed abused the UK. Sorry, Bubbleman. I apologize. It's the fault of a kind of questionable rule set that I still don't agree with, but we won't really go too much into that, I guess.
Yeah. It was definitely a strange year last year where the UK with Majora, Malteser, myself, and +1, maybe Blue, I think. I can't remember. But that roster gets speed abused.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah,
I think from my perspective and from playing against them last year, Lifeline has improved tremendously, and he was already pretty good. Ro has continued to be one of the most unknown, really good tournament players in the game. And then I think Vino, Skydiver are both very stagnant now. I don't think Skydiver plays the game often, but still does play. Or at least I haven't heard of them setting many scores, you know. I don't hear of them very often. Rixie's, Fuma are both fill, they can fill quite well. Krez and Dito. Krez incredible at hidden.
Krez is so good.
I don't I don't know. I don't know.
This is a hard one. It's a hard one.
To say about this. Well, here's the thing. I think the 5 to 6 makes sense, and here's why. And I don't know. I completely resonate with, because that's kind of what I was thinking when I put that down here. Here's what I'm looking at. I'm more looking at the teams that we currently have in the 5th to 6th spot. We have Canada, who I think might be pretty solid there, but you also have Chile there. And if you're looking at Chile and Indonesia next to each other, I look at Indonesia and I see a significantly higher skill roster as a whole. I think Chile has the carry players. I think they have a good backing roster behind those carry players. But Indonesia has a full 4 set of carries on a map if they need to. I mean, you have Skydiver and Lifeline, who are outstanding. Vino has absolutely rolled through tournaments this year. Ro has came significantly back into form and has become an amazing player. Rexys and Fuma hold their own into late rounds. Krez is an outstanding addition to this roster, and Dito, while slightly less known, I think is massive for them. So I'm looking at an Indonesia roster that is like, I don't want to say Chile, but better, but that's, I feel like, the only way I can put it. Like, I think they just knocked Chile out of that spot.
I have to generally
hard disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't think Chile is as bad as
Nice.
you're
It's
saying.
contentious.
I never said Chile was bad. Hold
Not
on
bad,
there.
but-
Hold on there.
I don't think they are. I don't think Indonesia is that much better than Chile, and I think it's because the players on Chile that people don't know about are just that good. Like, the tryout results, I think, are very surprising in comparison to most people's expectations of the team, and I think that's going to be a major factor in why Chile is as good as they are going to be this year. At the same time, I also agree Indonesia is an absolutely fantastic team. Vino, for one, I think has improved a fantastic amount in recent months. He is he recently got second in a tournament that I hosted, in a duo tournament with Rollpan, only losing to Bartek and Intercambing as a duo, which is like, okay, yeah, sure, you lose to that, but beating out other really, really amazing duos, like, for example, Zudinator and Frankie was a duo that they beat out in that tournament. Taquito and Boshi Man in a gimmick-only tournament is another duo that they beat out. Like, this is a player who is very solid recently. In the Osu Asia tournament, or Oceania Asia tournament, Skydiver, Lifeline, Ro was a team that got second place in that tournament. They only to, like, Emrek, Flying Tuna were 2 players on the other team in a 2v2 team size 3, I believe. Like, these are players who absolutely have the skill cap to go far, and I think with the addition of other players like Rexys, Fuma, Krez, and Dito, who are all really solid at a particular skill set, when you add them on to 4 players who are extremely solid, I don't see a lot of rosters that are better than that.
All right, so
That's part of the reason I have Indonesia 3rd and Chile 4th.
So we did talk a lot about stuff. I think what we're going to do for now is we're going to place them here. It's about the average, and I think once we either run out of slots in that row, or either whenever we reach the end, we'll determine. We can do like head-to-heads, you know, because like we mentioned already here, there's 3 teams in 5-6. That's not possible, but we'll look at direct comparisons between both of these teams and try to make a decision that way. Make sense?
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Moving on now. Again, in Indonesia, a lot to talk about. So, and we're not even done yet. So it's gonna be pretty interesting at the end. Let's move on now to Israel, who did barely qualify last year, but I mean, two big players missing, huh?
No silver.
Big is an
Sorry,
understatement.
goodbye.
That's like this is
Nope.
That's not happening.
I don't think
You know,
this is.
It's interesting. There was a full Israeli team back in Hippo Cup that did like better than I would have expected them to. But that's a rank restricted tournament. It's a completely different animal, and they don't have silver. That was just their
Or
skill
Mr.
set player.
Potato. Yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah.
They lost. So important thing to talk about. What the true loss of this team is that they lost the Mr. Potato and Chip synergy. It's no longer there anymore. I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's a typo. This is named now, but it was actually just called Chip last year. So unfortunate. Big loss to me. I think that's the whole reason why they don't qualify. Of course.
True.
Moving on now to Italy. Also, whoa, lots of people missing.
Yeah.
What is this?
This one hurts to.
This is really depressing, man.
This
Italy,
is sad. This
Italy
is everyone.
is the team that, in my opinion, has the biggest swing in skill in either direction of any team in this entire World Cup.
Yeah.
I've never seen a roster just completely get blown up the way Italy did this year, and they lost all of their best players.
Yeah.
All of them. They lost Koba, they lost Spazza, they lost Synchro, Kirochi, I mean, they lost everyone.
They have the
It's-
lone wolf this
Like,
year.
I genuinely, it's insane to me to see what happened to Italy this year.
Yeah, I know the names Arancino, Dem,
Yep.
Guy with the full caps from rank restricted tournaments only, and even then I don't know 4 of the players on this roster. I would love to juice them the same way I did Finland with the rank restricted players, but it's just not happening. Sorry, Italy.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to Ryuzaki
Yeah.
for putting this up this year, but I think they lost it for at least this year.
All right, that's quick and easy. I was gonna say quick and painless, but not really. Small amounts of pain for that one.
Painful for them. Yeah.
All right, let's move on now to Japan, who I think is also going to be this should be a pretty good discussion point. I think big losses. I think Dectopia probably the most important. Actually, Delis as well. Honestly,
Delis
it's hard to
and
say.
Dectopia both, yeah. They're still really good though, man. Like.
Yeah, Haga.
Haga is.
I'm so happy to see him play. By the way, most interesting play style.
Yeah.
But like Iger is nuts. That guy is really, really good. Varvalian is Varvalian. Everybody knows what to expect out of him. Hyphen, obviously, really, really solid. The one I'm unfamiliar with that I'm not sure what to expect out of is Autolian. I've heard he's like an insane player, but all the Japanese guys that like don't play in tournaments, I just don't know what to expect out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Important point to nuance because I vividly remember this as we like directly faced against them last year. Japan really liked winning with Delis and Dectopia playing reading stuff, gimmick stuff, hidden stuff. They don't have that anymore. Are the replacements there for that? Not really. I mean, they're going to have players in other elements, but they lost their strongest aspect of last year, which I think is a straight downgrade because of that.
Fully disagree with that. Con is really good at easy, and from what I've not heard very much about it, but if Autoline is about as good as easy as Dectopia or Delis, then they're gonna have a strong reading base at the very least. And I say base because it is, you know, a base to base AR8 hidden, free mod, whether reading goes into no mod. They're going to have that because they have the replacements. They honestly do.
Okay.
Saying that, I don't think they get past 7th, 8th this year. Rollpan has been popping off though. Like you said about Vino and Rollpan getting 2nd place in that gimmick tournament, he has found his form again. He is as scary as he was in 2017, and that's no joke.
Also, one more element. I not too familiar with Concon and Eutelin, but I think Haga could probably fill in that slot. But last year they were the team that got speed abused probably the most. They did not really have a fourth player on most DTs, most Nomad 2, most Nomad 5. Haga is speed, but I believe Dectopia was playing in those. I'm not quite sure. I forgot who exactly was playing them. I just remember they didn't have that fourth player. Chankoma was Chankoma was the fill player, right? So
yeah, I can see Concon being speed as well. He's got quite a high speed cap. Yeah,
he's a very rounded player.
They have a speed roster. They definitely have a speed roster. Rollpan, Varvalian, Concon, Haga.
Yeah,
they're not gonna get abused anymore.
Japan's finish result this year, I think, at least in terms of what I'm seeing from everyone here, I think is dependent on a lot of things like many other teams, which is the rosters that the opposing countries are putting up this year. Like, I would love to be able to say that they're back and forth again this year, because I don't think their roster gets subjectively worse. However, when you have a team like Australia that's already in fourth, they don't beat Australia, and you have 3 teams in 5th to 6th right now where at least 2 of them stay there. I don't think they push any of those teams down to that level.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so quick speed run time now. We've got 3 quick teams. I think we're all going to be agreeing on. Another brand new team.
Yeah,
you guys know anybody?
Before. Good for them.
I know Arnold 576. I know Kalidian.
Yeah. Akira's pretty good as well, actually. Akira's.
Any interesting facts about any of these players? Because I don't know anything about them. I'm assuming most people also don't.
I think Kaladeon will surprise people with how well he plays. I think Kaladeon is going to be big.
Arnold teamed up with Arnold 24x24. Interesting name.
The training camp?
That's great.
And they played OC content. He got relatively far, I'm pretty sure. So he could do okay.
Fun fact about
Is that just 24 times 20? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's 24 squared.
I was just checking that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Figured. I realized, I was like, wait, that math probably works
As if it would be anything else.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool name lore. All right, but yeah, I mean, not qualifying.
Sponsored
most
by
likely.
Astana,
Unfortunate,
like every sports team from Kazakhstan. That's the real question.
Yeah.
All right, another quick one probably. Let's take a look at Latvia, who, I mean, maybe this is an upgrade. They didn't have a full roster last time, but I mean...
losing a Kolobet is not what you
Yeah.
like to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and Wayward's gone inactive. He's not playing anymore, so it's not happening.
There's not much that's getting gained there. I mean, Akatoshi's normal is decent again, but I think it's like these minimal gains that they're getting for massive loss is not enough.
They have
Anybody
8 players instead of 6, but...
Yeah, anybody want to take a shot at the third from last player's name?
No.
No!
Is that you volunteering?
No. Yeah, is it just Piparku Sims, or is it like something more complicated than that? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
Anyway.
Unlucky.
All right, yeah, we're ready to move on from that. Another roster with a lot of changes. Let's take a look at Lithuania.
Noob winner.
Yeah,
Let's go.
who's that?
That name change is outstanding.
I believe that's Shinaru, right?
That is Shinaru for anyone that does not know. Yes.
They actually have a couple of pretty good players. Like he and Haganeno are both really solid, but
Marami, Frog, and Pain Singer. Marami, Frog, and Pain Singer are also upgrades.
Yeah. Oh, Pain Singer's on the...
Aoji is a loss though. Aoji is a loss.
I didn't even notice that Pain Singer was on there. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is a big one.
Can Shiner, Haganeno, and Pain Singer get them through qualifiers?
Maybe.
Without Aoji?
I mean, that is
Marami Frog is a big thing, I think, as well. Actually.
I mean, if you look at all the people we put in, if you look at the teams we put in DNQ so far, if we goes overboard, I think this is probably one of the teams I would look into qualifying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think they can get through, but.
Well, I mean, looking at the teams that we have left, so how many teams? We have 12 teams and do not qualify right now, which means realistically there is 7 more teams joining the ranks of that. Is there 17?
there should be there should be 17.
There's 7
yeah.
teams that beat this team, and I think there is, or at least only
Okay.
one of them.
Maybe we come back to that later.
It's right on the edge.
I think
It's
out
right
of
on
the
edge.
teams we've put in do not qualify so far, I think these guys, Austria and Belgium, are my 3 picks so far to actually qualify.
I think that's going to be a decent chunk at the end if we want to backload all of that at the end, because I'm sure eventually we're just gonna have too many teams in there. It's hard to have like a really accurate representation of all the teams, I think, once you don't really have a chance to discuss every single one of them. So I'm sure we'll be moving some stuff around at the end, but I think for now we can put them there. Not permanent, most likely. All right, let's take a look at Malaysia now. 4 new players. I think losing Claude
This
Viper
is
as
a
well.
This is a
big
big change.
improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got better for sure.
CB and Inugami Korone and Chiu and Shima. Actually, just all of them. I should
All of
stop
them are
listing them
upgrades.
individually. All of them are upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
At
mean,
the same time, I don't
I don't
see them
think it's
getting
gotten
past
better,
17th,
though.
24th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
they-
upgrades,
I mean,
but not enough upgrades.
yeah, they beat Norway
could.
and took 3 points off of Russia last year. That's
That's pretty good.
Like actually not that bad, but I don't think they do all that much better, if any.
Yeah.
Chang Liang is just
they-
permanently solid. So is Wuhua, and their new players are solid. But
Yeah.
the skill cap.
They
comes
have
in
potential
pretty
to get top 16. They have the potential.
They
Whether they
do.
get it or not remains to be seen, and I don't think they will based on how strong the other teams are in the tournament. But they could do it, and I would
Yeah.
love to see them do it
Yeah.
because... Yeah.
Yeah. It's the roster. It's good.
All right, so what is that? 17-24.
Yeah, look, I have them slightly lower because I think a lot of the other teams later on in the list are slightly better than them, but yeah, it's very reasonable. Yeah.
Well, we gotta fill in those slots with a couple teams.
Yeah, we'll find something. We'll find someone to go there.
We'll find some other teams.
Somebody will eventually join the Czech Republic in that slot.
There's a lot of lists left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they need a couple friends. Maybe this
Yeah.
is one of them. Let's take a look at Mexico, who's swapping 3 of their players. Hebel coming back as well. I think that's not his first time playing.
No,
Yeah.
he's back, yeah. Mexico has the dubious honor of being one of 2 teams to not win a single map last year that qualified. Mexico and I think it was Austria. But,
They will win a map this year. They will.
Hebel is a big improvement. Pundice is actually, like, for early rounds, if they can get through qualifiers, is not bad at all. I think they can...
A year ago, I don't think we would have said that, which is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they don't... I don't think they maybe win a match necessarily, but I think they're more competitive with the teams that are also barely, kind of scraping through qualifiers this year.
I think they have a good chance. I think I'm kind of in between winning a match or not, because when you look at the other teams that are 17-24, I think I would compare them pretty nicely head to head. It's a little hard to say, I think, depending on which team they get,
Yeah. I think for me, they're probably one of the teams that gets swept losers bracket round 2, but can win a close match in losers bracket round 1.
They
and
can
that's
get
kinda
there,
where I have
yeah.
them,
Yeah,
is,
this is a bracket
17th
dependent
or
team.
18th.
This is a
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah,
qualifiers
definitely.
results dependent team.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like the particular members that I would look at are like Wolfie and Hebel have gotten way better over the past year.
Yeah, Wolfie
they
is
are
big.
super active in tournaments all over the place, and they have tournament results to back them up. Saint SFT has some really, really standout performances, particularly in qualifiers. And I believe it was Yuki Aim that's ongoing right now. His qualifiers performance really surprised me. I did not expect him to do as well as he did there. Halipers and Pundus are, of course, I think strictly upgrades compared to last year as well. Riot has been a mainstay on the roster and is still very solid. So I think all of those players are going to be able to contribute relatively well. Kevstrack and Flameshock I haven't seen a lot of this year, but I don't expect them to be any worse than last year for what it's worth. So I think
That's fair.
I think this roster is like I said, 17th, 18th. Solid enough to maybe get a win
I
in
think
losers bracket round 1 and maybe lose in losers bracket
Yeah,
round 1. Not sure.
they're right in there. I think this is one of those teams, and I mentioned it in passing before. If they perform well in qualifiers and they get themselves the seed that they want to get, they will make the push for 17th to 24th. But it is entirely dependent on that, I think.
All right. I think we can just about place them there. Let's move on now to the Netherlands. Yeah, what about the Netherlands?
I neither like or dislike these roster changes.
They had the most bizarrely bad results last year. I mean, they lost 5-2 to Taiwan in first round, and then they lost 5-1 to the Philippines in the losers bracket. Like, I just don't know what to expect out of the Netherlands on any given day.
This roster has improvements. This roster, OPEP is massive, I think, and while Amnesia and Nyako were both very good players, Cosmic Wolf is kind of that underdog for this team that people don't really have their eyes on as much. That kind of coupled with the fact that Skyrovania has only gotten better over this past year. I think finally won their regional tournament against Vivelium after so many years, and then the overall player improvement, it's probably going to push them in my mind.
I can't imagine. I think they weren't taking it very seriously last year. I can't imagine they won't take it seriously this year when they have Spyro, Viv, Maniavat has done really well for himself in community tournaments recently. Yeah, they have what it takes, I think.
Yeah.
17th to 24th.
I think they can win a match.
I couldn't willingly put them at the same level of the current 25 to 32 seed teams, placement teams, just because of this roster.
My only concern is sort of the well-roundedness of the team. You have very good players, but I'm not sure how well Jackie has been playing as of recent. I haven't seen him in a lot of tournaments in general. Really?
Very well. He play tests for a significant amount of tournaments and just rocks replays out.
Okay. Well,
he's a dedicated man.
I have not seen him enough behind the scenes.
He's just good. Yeah, he's just a good player, unironically. Like a very skilled player. And again, the carry players from last year have only gotten better. So that's just improvements all around in my mind.
I mean, Jackie's another one of those players that's just been around for, I think this is his 9th World Cup now since 2013. Much respect. You just have to respect that, honestly.
And you gotta expect him to get into form a little bit, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on now. New Zealand. It's not their first time in OWC. They just didn't have a roster last year, but this is pretty close to the roster of 2019, I believe. Short Potato, Big Z, Faye, and Zoomer played in that roster.
It's
Didn't qualify though.
That's a country where they're just glad to get together enough players to have a team. I mean, like New Zealand is just a really small OSU community, and I don't unfortunately think that they have the overall skill to get through qualifiers.
Yeah,
they can. I could see it happening and then them going 0-2 in the bracket, but I think it's more likely that they don't qualify.
Yeah, I mean, they're very heavily relying, in my mind, on Zoomer and Short Potato for most of their maps, and I don't know if that's quite enough with this. With that being said, again, I think they have a chance of qualifying with some of their more skilled players on this roster, kind of at the same level that we would put, like, teams like Belgium, but
they can go on the list of like teams that could go to 25-32 if we need to move teams out and up.
Yeah,
DNQ.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah, first year jitters might get them though. It depends. I mean,
not in qualifiers.
I
don't think that gets people in qualifiers.
Not. I mean, the pressure of qualifiers is pretty high for some of these new teams. Like, this is not a tournament experienced roster either. Like, some of these new rosters at least have a couple of players.
Also, like, unironically, it is just really hard to be a tournament player and be from New Zealand because of the time zone. Like, holy crap, you're UTC plus 13, like GLHF playing tournaments from there.
Oh yeah.
But this is definitely a good time to show their stuff, though, right? Because they can't not be scheduled at a good time for them. Because it's a single time zone for every team.
Yeah. Right.
You're not gonna have international teams now,
true,
so they can't be like schedule cooked.
Yeah, I just mean in terms of like tournament experience, though, in general.
Yeah, it's hard for them to sign up for that.
I do get that, but you can be consistent and not have tournament experience.
Oh,
I don't think it's going to matter that they don't have the tournament experience if they have that consistency. What sticks in my mind with New Zealand will always be the 2016 group stage when they nearly kicked France out of the tournament, and that was the year before they went on like a 2-year groups losing spree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, New Zealand, I think are going to qualify. I don't think they qualify high, but they will qualify.
Again, I think, just repeating, I think it's one of those teams where we're probably going to look to reevaluate if need be.
Yeah,
But, we'll
it's
put them
fair.
there for now.
It's fair.
yeah, I think.
All right, another boomer squad. Not as much though, actually. Let's look at Norway replacing 2 of their players. It's not that much of a. She was not playing,
Like
so I guess.
This is a shift. This is a linear shift.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
like
not
it's
an upgrade nor a downgrade.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lateral move for sure.
I disagree.
Oh, I
with
do
that a
say
little bit. I think-
Nineric.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Nineric is good. Yes.
Yeah.
Nineric Fiel are just 2 of the members from Team The who got top 6 after qualifying 16th in Course Ace just this past few months.
Yeah.
Yolkspie has not really gotten any worse. Jien has not gotten any worse. Marcus
Fiel got better.
known tournament player. Fiel's gotten better. Nineric's gotten better. They qualify.
Yeah.
They qualify
certainly. Yeah,
high,
certainly.
like
It could be bracket RNG, honestly. Like
Yeah.
whether they can
I'd see
win
that.
a match or two,
Yeah.
just who they match up against, whether it's a team that can take advantage of their weaknesses or not.
They need a non-well-rounded roster to make
Yeah.
full use of this team, because this, like, we talk about rosters that don't really cover all skill sets. Norway is like very heavily in that zone. They don't have a 4-man DT roster. They don't really have a super strong 4-man reading roster, despite having Yolkspie and GN and all and Marcus, but they're starting to round out some of those, but it's still might not be enough.
One thing is that, like, in the early stages, I don't think not having a solid 4th, like somebody who is very clearly super good at any single skill set to round out the team, is super important, because the maps aren't that hard yet. And so, if given that they do qualify, which I think is the obvious consensus, I think the early stages still can go very well for this team. Like, all of the members who are not Yolkspie and GN have improved a lot for them over the past year. Fiel, Marcus, and Nineric in particular, have all been very, very active in community tournaments and have been putting up really solid scores on particular types of maps and pretty okay scores on a lot of their worst maps as well. So I don't think they're... I think that they have the potential to get a win or 2. 2 wins would be the absolute
bracket
max.
dependent,
They can
yeah.
definitely get...
It is,
yeah.
it's the seeding
absolutely
dependent.
bracket dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
mean,
think they can
yeah.
definitely get a win. Whether they get 2 is the question. I think it's reasonable to say both yes and no. But I think that they are better than a lot of the teams that we have in 17-24 right now, which is why I put them 13-16.
Will that go in 25-32 probably? For the time being.
Yeah, for the time being.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely reasonably expecting more, or the potential of more, though.
An explorable roster.
Yeah. All right. Peru.
Peru?
Arnold and the
it's-
boys.
It's Arnold and the gang.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a full
No.
8 roster this year, but the players that they added don't add value in my mind. It's in I don't know what sense to make that and not sound like mean, but
Yeah.
like
But it's kind of... Yeah. All right, here's the scenario. Here's what happens, all right? Arnold
everyone
comes
is.
in. No. Arnold comes in. He plays like he did in Drenched Program. He just full combos every single map in qualifiers, and everybody else gets 300k. Bam, 2 million score on every map they're in. That's my prediction.
It's
That's
reasonable.
what's happening. That's what's
I
happening.
can see it. I can
It
see
could
it.
happen.
I
but-
can
mean,
see it, but
look.
you're living on a prayer. You are living on a prayer there.
Look, Arnold has been that good
Arnold's
recently.
really good.
He has, yeah.
He is very
been that
good, but
good.
that is like extreme levels of consistency. That is like
I agree.
I mean,
I agree
would you really
but
put it
still.
past him?
I would.
I wouldn't.
Not at all. I would bet on
I
it.
wouldn't.
Yes,
I wouldn't
I
put it
would,
past him.
but-
But as much as I would like to not put it past him, this is still the real world we are living in. And-
Yeah, I just,
Ideal, we tried, dude.
the best tournament players in the world. You have the best tournament players in the world coming through this tournament every single year, and not once have we seen a player FC every single map with that high of the consistency. Like, it just doesn't happen, unfortunately. Like, as much as cool as it would be to see for the first time ever, I just don't know if Arnold is the guy to do that first.
All right. Well,
we tried.
again, kind of bordering one of those teams, probably.
Yep.
Tiptoeing, maybe, potentially.
Yeah.
Either that, or we just have...
Twice in calls.
I think mid-30s. I don't think they're going to push
They're-
up to 32.
They're digging a hole under the fence, but they, like, hit a rock. That's basically...
Yeah.
like-
They're trying to dig a hole under the fence, but for some reason, directly in line with a fence post.
Yeah, that's...
You hate to see it.
unfortunate. Like, they're right there.
All right, the Philippines bringing in 3 new players. Milkyism.
Good
They
upgrade.
brought in
These are
three.
very good
Wow.
upgrades.
Yeah,
These are
they brought in-
outstanding.
They brought in
Yes.
Good players.
This is very cool to see.
Yeah.
Is that the first 13-16?
I think it's definitely.
Yeah.
I think,
feasible.
yeah, this might be...
I think it's
Yeah.
definitely
No, yeah, you're
feasible.
right.
Yeah, I mean, Milk Teasm, Kageno, Lilyflower. I mean, if you haven't seen one of those 3 players in a tournament popping off on multiple maps, you need to play more tournaments. And Hyok has just become outstanding over this past year as well, so... Ramu
They
hidden
were
scores
already-
as well. If you look at leaderboards lately, Ramu
Yeah.
will show up a lot.
That's a super
Big up for the
sleeper
Irish
team.
presence from Lilyflower.
From Lilyflower.
Yeah, seriously. I was gonna say, I saw that name on the roster. I was like,
Yeah, I was a little confused.
Wait a
that was
second.
I think that was a relatively recent roster change. So I think that was like over the summer, maybe, because I remember
Yeah,
they
maybe.
were definitely still Ireland for Sushi Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
They,
They
they
played
flag
pretty late
changed
this year.
afterwards.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a sneaky sort of team. Like if they come up against somebody in like the 9th through 12th, 7th through 8th kind of range in an earlier round, like they could definitely make some interesting matches happen.
Yeah.
Imagine Philippines if all the NA Filipinos were actually in the
True.
Philippines.
Oh my
Top
God.
3, dude.
Oh man. Oh man.
They get Idki and Vaxe and freaking whoever else. My God.
I mean, that was basically like half
Ikivexe,
the-
Zudi,
half the-
Xylus,
that was half the China team
Taquito,
studying in the
Utami.
US too.
God, why are all the good North American players freaking Filipino? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, Iggy
crazy,
isn't, I
man.
apologize, sorry. But yeah, that would be pretty nuts.
All right, 13-16 it is. All right, here's
Really
another.
open up that bracket.
Here's another. Maybe
Oh.
potentially a long discussion.
Ooh,
Poland.
This roster makes me sad.
All right, so
All right, not really, but it's yeah.
I mean, there's a very very notable player missing. In Bartek.
Is he-
Bartek obviously
Oh,
is
what do you mean?
playtesting. So
Not Michigan?
well, also yeah.
And Bartek and Michny gone and replaced by
Bartek and
Roxpl
Michny.
Yeah.
and Bert P.
Chomik though.
Ristel is insane.
Yeah.
Ristel has
Ristel.
become
Yeah,
like
yeah.
quietly
That
one of
is,
the best tournament
if
players
you
in the
have
world.
someone
Not even
coming
that
in to
quietly.
replace Bartek, that's the upgrade you want.
Ristel is absurdly good.
I think the question here is obviously Chomik Box is going to be the carry for this team, right? Do they have
Yeah.
the rest of the support on the team to get like top 3 or top 4?
If
Not
Rafis
up for
and
no.
Tvoya, no.
I think it's like
Lyrox
top 8
is
on-
good.
I think it's top 8 on a good day, but I also don't know enough about Lyrox and Bert P to really.
I don't
be able
know
to
them
make a
either.
Perfect judgment on those two. But knowing what we know of the other 6, I think top 8 is definitely feasible for them, but top 12 is like more reasonable.
I'm gonna hesitate on top 8 for them.
Do they have the roster? Yes, I'd say they have the roster. Are they going to practice? No, I don't think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Well, I
Will
think
Will
this-
Wolf drive home from the Czech Republican border 2
Oh
hours
my
before his group stage match?
Oh, Poland, you
know,
entertain us
I love
every year. Poland is just like, here's the thing again, I think they're coming down to all the teams that we currently have in the top like bit of this seating area, which is you have the teams that we haven't even gone through yet, because ultimately in this top contention teams we still haven't gone through South Korea, you haven't seen Singapore, Russia, USA, even
There's
the
gonna be a lot
UK
of
this
movement.
year. Like, there's so many teams that still have to fit into those top 8 slots that you have to envision yourself right now. Does this roster beat at least one of the teams in those top 8 spots right now?
Yeah,
So Bristol
I-
1v4'd all the way to 3rd place in Course Ace Open. I feel like
Yeah,
he kind of
that was the
can.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that
see,
was
that-
something that
So
happened.
important distinction is the World Cup pools are a lot easier than the Course Ace pools. So a player like Bristol may not have that same opportunity. And also, I think in Course Ace, arguably, they kind of got a pretty good bracket in order for that to happen, right? So.
Especially finals week, yeah.
I think Poland are one of those coin flip team. They're one of those coin flip teams where they could win any match.
Yep.
You put them in any match and they could just somehow win it and pull out
They could also lose.
insane performances across the entire tour. Or all 4 players in the team could score 100k.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's
No in
gonna happen.
between.
Yeah.
Poland
You
is
just
either
have
going
no
to get
idea.
11th. Poland is either going to get 11th or 4th this year. Like that's just
That's fair.
that's Poland.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I think judging off the averages is probably 9/12 though.
Yeah, I think 9/12
Yeah.
is probably fair.
Very fair.
All right. Clear this
Full
out.
9/12.
Let's take a look at Portugal, who did not qualify last year, but are now bringing in 5 new players.
Does anybody
think
know
we're gonna
any
qualify
of these
again.
players?
Some downgrades, I think. Unfortunately, I don't think they made upgrades with the roster switches.
Yeah.
King Lizard was arguably their 2nd best player besides Maki Donalds, and they didn't really have much outside of those 2.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Not
Sorry.
gonna say.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Portugal.
That's fast. All right. Big
unlucky.
agreement on that.
You're gonna get a
Unlucky,
prize
go unlucky, go next.
Sadly.
Go next fast.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been doing this for quite. It's been an hour and a half now, almost. So yeah, let's go next. Romania.
3 a.m.
Romania. All right.
Romania.
What's the
boy.
deal with
Come
Romania?
on.
Romania.
Come on.
What is the deal with
Let's
Romania?
go. Romania is so good this year, dude. I don't know.
Badoo's good.
Oh, before we go as well, I totally screwed up. L9 Elevator is Rolly.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
blundered. But the roster on the right is the correct roster.
No, Romania definitely improves on last year. I think, just to be realistic, I think 13 through 16 is just improvement up to the next bracket, but I think they're capable of way more than that. I think they're literally, like, legitimately, if they pop off, they're capable of top 8. If they pop off, it's another, like, I think their floor is a little bit higher than Poland, though their ceiling is maybe similar.
The same
Kamoziala.
the
I was
reasoning we
so
talked
used
about
to
earlier.
Kamoziala.
The teams we have not gone through yet. There are many teams that are 100% top 8 teams that we have not talked about yet. Kind of starting to run out of slots, and you start asking yourself, does Romania beat any of the current teams that are already there? And I think depending on which ones they are, it's not sure. So I think maybe similar to Norway, I would say. Like, if they get a good bracket, I see it happening 100%. There are some teams they beat for sure. Maybe depending on the day and everything. Is it consistently going to happen, though? Not sure.
I don't. Romania's got a lot of solo players. They have a lot of players that are really good in solo, but have never come into form in tournaments outside of, you know, what you see from like Badoo and Kamoziala. And sometimes that makes a difference. And I think when you get to the top 8 teams,
Actually.
that's when it makes the difference. The top 8 team push.
I hate to do this, but we're going to make the
yeah.
critical mistake of putting Romania below Poland. But, yeah.
Yeah, this is always gonna be.
Oh yeah.
It's,
I never know.
all right.
We'll see.
Okay.
There's a lot of other very good teams left.
Anything? Am I
Yeah.
cutting anyone off? Are we moving on?
No.
All right, we're moving on.
I think we're good.
Russia. What is up with Russia? Also losing a lot of players. Lumitri,
The
Gasha.
semifinals brick
Semifinals,
wall.
Russia curse.
The
yeah.
semifinals
Yeah.
brick wall for them.
Yeah. Lever
They
Russian
have-
is very solid.
They have
this
some
year.
good players.
Upgrades, beer tester, Leva Russian. I mean,
This is
I
also
don't-
still a really solid speed player, but they just have Russia every year, man. It's every year.
Every year, every tournament.
I don't
No,
think they
nobody
get,
knows.
I think
They're gonna get
every
past
other
top
team
16.
every other team has gotten so much better, and they have not really. Plus the Russia late stage kind of like curse for them. I look at the top 12 teams that we have right now. They certainly don't make a push for top 8, and I don't think that 9th to 12th area right now has 3 teams that lose to Russia.
I'm very
Right
uncertain
hand.
about this.
By the way, who plays right hand on this team?
Pixel, Apostle,
Okinatori. Okinatori.
Does he have?
He's got some right hands.
Okinatori is like probably
Okinatori is like
well-rounded,
rounded. Yeah.
player on this team.
Tester Pivka is pretty good right hand
Okay.
player. I think he's their biggest addition for a right hand player.
It's very clearly a mechanics team, but they
Yeah.
do have some right.
Russia's always been the mechanics team.
Yeah.
They've really always just been like really good at those high star, massive jump and stream maps.
Yeah, the problem is they don't have the raw mechanics to contest some of the better teams in the bracket.
Well,
they also just don't have like reading tech control players on the team.
Yeah, there's no aim control for a lot of it.
I almost think they don't have the consistency they need. I think a few of the players on that team are, for some reason or another, just inconsistent, and I don't think they're going to have a 4-man FC on any of the maps. Despite having the skill to be able to achieve a 4-man FC, they're not going to quite be able to pull it off.
I mean, I agree. I think that's where we joke about the semifinals wall, but that's where it comes in for them. They have the 4-man skill. They just never show up on the map when they need it to, when all the other teams up there do.
All right. Well, pretty much all in agreement here.
Yeah.
So we've got, I think, 14 teams remaining. Let's take a look at Singapore, who got top 16 last year, bringing back Amelia as well, and Seal, which I don't think that's Seal's first time playing.
It's not. I don't believe it is.
Singapore's
I recognize them.
Singapore's a quiet team.
quietly
I
pretty
agree.
good, man. Like, unironically, I think like the 13th through 16th is achievable again this year.
It is their first time.
Seal?
Yeah, there's their
Oh,
first
is it?
time.
I feel like that was there last year, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm thinking of somewhere else. Or not last year.
I think they just repeat their performance from last year. Like,
Yeah,
I-
I think they're quite solid.
I'm not sure.
I don't think it's gonna be close for them. I think this is a roster with improvements. Emilia is, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it an improvement from either Lanjair or Lock-On, and I don't know enough about Seal to say something. I do know that GS Blank has gotten better. I do know that Kitty has gotten significantly better than last year, Tebby. Demonical kind of stays the same every year. Megamic is kind of just that, like, not open rank player, but is always kind of good. But
I think for me, this is solved in a very simple way. If you look at any of the teams that are currently top 16, I don't think they beat many of them except maybe Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I would.
It's gonna be close.
I think
yeah.
they go toe
Yeah.
to toe with Philippines, but I think they would lose to Philippines, which is why they'd go 17th rather than 16th.
Yeah, I think this is another. This is another. Does the brackets screw them over team?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
In which case,
in some
see that.
cases, I think they have a chance of pushing what they did last year.
yeah, but even comparing them to some of the 17-24 teams, like the matchup is close.
I think
right?
they're on the
Especially
upper
against
end of the
teams
17 to 24
Yeah.
teams.
I agree.
They are certainly
But
on
at
the
same
upper end.
time,
They'd probably go
like, against-
17th.
Yeah.
Right. Against teams like the Netherlands or China, for example, I think that matchup is very close. and
Yes,
because they're
yes.
close to those teams,
Yeah.
and I think arguably a notch worse than the teams in 13-16. It's fairly clear to me.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd do be. All right, let's move on. Slovakia did not qualify last year, but through the new players, and I do think, again, a few recognizable names.
Where did they qualify last year? Because with these upgrades, this could push them a place or two up.
They got 34th, so I mean, they're only 2 slots out.
They might qualify.
I think they
They're
could
right on the
qualify.
edge.
Given the teams that we have in 25 to 32, I don't see them that far below.
I was gonna say, then again, we said they might qualify like last year, so I don't know.
It's right
Well,
on
here's the
edge.
thing: is what we have teams.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think they beat Austria, Belgium, or New Zealand. I don't think they beat either of those 3 teams, and we have them not qualifying. So I don't think they're gonna qualify just based off that.
I
Yeah,
think,
I-
given the teams that we have left, though, there are not a whole lot of teams that are left that I would put in 25 to 32 below them.
There's like 2 teams left that I think are pretty much 100% not going to qualify, and there's I think a couple others that I would put in 25 to
Like, we
32.
need 7 teams in the
Yeah.
25 to 32 range, and I feel like they are,
quite a few.
even if we move up all 3 teams that
Hey.
we think are in DNQ.
It's 8 total.
Oh, 8 total, yeah. So, but even if we move up all 3 teams that we think are in DNQ that could make it into that spot, I still think they find their chance there.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I have to agree. I don't think that these are upgrades. The only name that I know is Trinity Telki out of the people who were traded, and I think it was mentioned in chat earlier. Sneaky Nicky was
Yeah.
better than expected last year, and they traded them out for players that, sure, if you swap in Trinity Zatelki, it's kind of good, but I just don't think that the improvements in the rest of the roster are enough to offset the losses in the traded players, and I don't think they qualify for that reason. I also think a lot of the lower seeded teams got slightly better in comparison. Like, a lot of the really top level teams got slightly worse this year. A lot of the lower level teams got slightly better, and so I think those 2 things happening at the same time kind of screw over their chances.
Okay. I think just mostly just
I believe.
We're-
I'm gonna
we're-
keep
I think
that.
they. I think
we're
they
pretty,
believe,
I think
but-
I think
too,
they
like-
pushed it.
yeah. I don't know. I think we're pretty pessimist about a lot of the teams that are here. Like, we'll probably go back and qualify a lot of these. I do think
I
they
think
sneak
so.
through. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
okay to
think
put them now for
There
now.
will be some moves at that lower
Yeah.
level there, yeah.
Yeah. All right. South Korea. What about South Korea?
Oh,
boy.
this could either be some significant gaming done this year, or roster changes will take effect.
I have literally no idea what to expect out of the new players. Like, I've never seen Maez play a tournament before. I know he's like has like the most ridiculous solo plays, but also I don't know how active the other players are. But I think the thing with South Korea, they do this interesting thing basically every single year. South Korea just tosses somebody on the roster that you've like never heard of or never seen play in a tournament, and they
And
get
they
to top
go.
8 anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't matter because they have Tuna, they have Karuna, and that is all you need apparently to get a team to like top 12, top 8 every single year. They just managed to make it happen. And I don't think this year there's really any reason to think it's going to be any different because they still have such a ridiculously strong core, even if they are adding 3 new players that are a little bit untested in this sort of competition level.
Their roster changes are good, and I look at the top 5 players that are listed on that team roster this year, and I feel fear. And I think that's enough for them to push for top 8 again. I don't think there's any reason that I do not think they have gotten worse to any notable degree that they would lose the placement that they had last year. And they came pretty freaking close to winning that match.
They got swept, but you know.
Is it the round before that then? There was something that they came really close in. I think it might have been the round that knocked them to losers bracket.
Brazil 6-0'd them. In the
I
winners
think that was a
bracket.
weird
They took
game,
4
though.
They
Was-
took 4
was-
points off
was
of
a
Germany. They
strange
took
game.
Was
took 4
South
points
Korea
off of
the one
Germany.
that
in the round
were they
before.
the ones that lost when they got knocked to losers bracket? That was a closer match that could have gone either way, but
Well,
there
they
was
lost-
It was a
they
strange
lost-
game
they
because
lost
Brazil
6-4
were
to
running down
Germany,
the
and then-
timer, right?
Yeah, but that's allowed. Like if you're within the timer, I feel like that's just having bad mental. I'm sorry. I love them, but like that's just having bad mental. You got to be able to deal with shit like that. Sorry.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I changed my mind actually looking at the teams that we have in 9-12. I think that they're better than the teams in 9-12. Maybe barely
think
better
South-
than Poland.
I think
and
they match with
worse
some of the
than
teams we have
in top
5-6 as well.
Yeah.
I think they match a couple of those.
competition. It's a close
Yeah.
competition between some of those teams. Also, I'm still gonna die on the hill that you guys are disagreeing with that 5-6 Chile is like ridiculously overrating that team. But so like I would put South Korea on
I'm
the tier with,
inclined
like,
to agree for that one, but I think
Canada,
there
Canada,
are some
Indonesia,
missing teams.
and
There are at least 2 teams that need to fit in somewhere in the top 16 here.
I know where I'm putting those two teams. I think we know where most of us are putting those two teams already, but we have to get to them still.
I think Australia might be getting moved up, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll put Korea here now.
That's the wrong direction in my mind.
All right. Well, we'll see. Perfect. Lots of discussion. Let's move on now. Let's talk about Spain's. Did not qualify last year. If I remember, I don't think I remember anything actually. Maybe they were close.
Spain,
not upgrades.
I have the list.
All I know is really Antonio, I think, and Harmonia actually. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were close. Yeah.
It was close. I don't know that their new players are any better than the players they're replacing though.
Not familiar enough.
I don't think there is anything.
Antonio is really solid this year. That's one thing to note. Antonio is like demonstrably better than he was last year. He has played in a lot of tournaments and gotten a lot more experience in general, and Harmonia is still relatively solid, and I think that might be enough to push them over the edge, because those two players in qualifiers are going to be like really solid. Hideki as well has been having a lot of tournament performances. I don't think a lot of super standout performances, but definitely the experience is there, especially in the early rounds, so it's a possible qualification for them.
I think they could qualify, but when you look at all the teams that we said earlier in the currently in DNQ, I would probably put those teams ahead of Spain, I think.
I think the only team that would rate ahead of Spain is Belgium.
Oh. That's weird.
Okay.
Well, that's it. I think. Yeah, I think Spain's good.
It's a hard decision, apparently.
I'm definitely on the Antonio Hopium. That's
okay.
I'm on the edge for them. Yeah, I definitely think it's kind of in between, but I don't know. They're fighting against some good teams.
We can reiterate later. In the interest of time, I think we can put them down as qualifying.
Yeah.
Majority already.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweden.
This team is all over the place every year. This
Sweden
team has so much
was,
potential.
We said the exact same thing last year. So
this is actual potential.
What changes?
This is like no. All right, so I had the privilege of at least participating in Sweden's tryouts in terms of playing with some of the players in the lobbies this year. Yageko is scary, and I say that with zero doubt in my mind that it is going to be ridiculous to have them on the roster this year. Losing Knots is not amazing for them, but I don't think that he covers anything that they need at this this point in time. I also think that Reedcat is nowhere in the same realm as he was last year. This is a guy that went from being a good top tier tournament player last year to like top 8 tournament players right now. In my mind, he has just destroyed any preconceptions that we had about him as a player and his consistency all over. I had the privilege of playing with Blue in Suiju this year, did well more than what I think any of us would have expected from him to do in that, and he covered so many more skill sets. People kind of think of Blue as like, kind of like that hard rock aim player, but he did everything he needed to do. Andros is ridiculously high skill cap. Saika has become a demon no mod 2 player. I see improvements in significant areas all around, and on a team who has continuously underperformed every year, but because we've rated them so highly on the basis of just like 1 or 2 players.
I think this team just is better than like almost. I think they would beat Brazil straight up, and I think it would be like trading points over and over again against Hong Kong, and then just like beating them in tiebreaker, because the tiebreaker is always like more favored towards mechanics players and all-rounders, which is the type of players that Sweden has in spades this year, much more so than in previous years. With I think Masta joining the roster is a big upgrade from either Knots or Felrion, and like Chillier said, Reedcat is just like on a tear literally the entire year from the start of the year.
He has unwavering.
Crazy this year.
All right,
I think they're next 12.
Okay, so the first adjustment needs to be made if we are to put them in top 12. Who leaves?
Hong Kong or Brazil.
Yeah, one of those two.
I would
definitely.
say Hong Kong
think it's
before
Hong
Brazil.
Kong.
I think
Yeah.
Hong Kong leaves before Brazil.
I'm tempted to say Hong Kong too. Yeah.
I think their additions on Brazil are in line with who they lost, which is good. Or Poland is a wild card too.
Yeah, Poland could go anywhere.
Do we want to move the wild card first?
I never know what to do with
I
Poland,
don't-
man.
We could
I don't think Poland in
blunder.
good
We
conscience.
could blunder moving Poland.
We talked
Yeah, I don't
about
think-
placing Poland above Romania being a
I think
mistake.
that's
I
true.
think keeping Poland above Hong Kong, I think right now is the difference of them adding Chomik to the roster. I think he is enough.
I
think
don't
he is
think
enough.
we can. I don't think we can move Poland in good conscience because they have the players. They absolutely have the players, and we can't not put them middle of the pack. And I say that in quotation marks because 9th to 12th is above average, but that's There's no way they don't get at least there with the players they have.
Even if they
They're
show up,
just-
no warm up 1 hour or no practice
Yeah.
1 hour before the match and just warm up.
Yeah.
The players are that good and that experience that I don't think it matters all that much in the early stages for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is good then, right? Moving Hong Kong down. All right.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's move on to Switzerland.
I don't
Yeah.
recognize anyone.
Ayaka is their best player.
If I'm not wrong, I think Switzerland. I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, but I think Switzerland was last
think it
place in
was the year
qualifiers.
before.
Yeah, Switzerland just.
Was it the year before? Was that 2019?
It was the year of 2019.
Ah, my mistake.
I think they just don't have the depth or the cap.
Okay, so
Or the
so
floor.
technically, if my math is right, we have 51 teams. That's all of the DNQ teams that we can fit in there, right?
We need two more.
19. We need one.
Two more.
Two more.
Okay, my bad.
And there's one that's like for sure, and another.
Oh, yeah, it has to be 19. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think we have at least one more that doesn't.
I put this in the Discord. I guess you probably haven't checked that though, so it's fine.
No, I haven't looked at my Discord in like 2 hours. But yeah, okay.
It's all good.
All right. Here's another pretty interesting one. I think Taiwan, lots of changes, but are they really changes?
This is downgrade central.
I mean, it's
really
not
wanna
as
put
bad
them
as
high.
Italy, but
I wanna say that this like the roster changes have potential because unironic like Rucker, Dazzlewind, and Diastrophism are good players, but Flash GM of RT Zane Riser is.
That's like that's their core. That's literally their core.
I think they
And
just didn't
Rucker
wanna
just
play.
climbed out of a hole in the past few months and appeared again. So
I mean, he's done that once before, right?
yeah.
And he's back to being really good again as well, which is scary.
Yeah, I mean, Shield is significantly better too. Shield is amazing now, so
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that means
it's
something. at
Crazy
least.
player.
Yeah,
It's just the downgrade in skill is going to affect this team so early with the players
It
that
will.
they're replacing with. Like,
think
it's
so.
just, they'll win like a match, but
Yeah,
It's so weird. The players are still so good. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
too familiar with Kamui or like the numbers, but like, I don't know. Like, how can a team with Shield, Sheena, Rucker, and Dazzlewind like possibly place this low? But then you look at like the teams that are above that, and it kind of makes sense. I guess there's just a lot of like pretty decent teams in
Yeah.
OWC now, right? So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, really.
don't see them winning against anyone placed 13th, 16th right now. Maybe like
yeah,
maybe
no.
I think they could be. I think they could be
Maybe
maybe
Philippines.
Philippines.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
Romania.
the two question marks for me, and like Russia, Hong Kong, they are I think decidedly worse than as a roster just because of the caliber of players on the other two teams. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna happen. Philippines is the only team of those I could see going toe to toe with Taiwan, or Taiwan going toe to toe with them.
Yeah,
But I
even
think they
then
would
there's
come out on
teams
top.
you'd move up first though. Before that,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
What's
We're in
up?
agreement.
Oh, we're in agreement. All right.
Nothing.
Okay. Moving on.
We are.
Lots of new players here as well. Minecrafter, not to be
Yeah.
confused with Minecraft 570. We can't have two Minecrafts, man. Come on.
I just.
But
this is,
every single
Yeah,
player
no.
here, I think, other than Minecrafter, who I think only played once before, is new to OWC. So I don't know. Do you guys know any of them much?
No.
not
Not familiar with
really.
the
Trigonoculus is a downgrade, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, props to them for getting the full 8 this year, but yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Hawkins
The
like
late
a
roster.
player, but I mean, yeah, the rest of the roster, no.
Lol noob.
Peak
Okay.
long.
Username.
6 teams
Alrighty.
left. Let's move on. All in agreement for that one. Let's take a look at Turkey. Turkey, I believe, was 32nd
I want to
seed.
see them qualify.
I think they do.
Turkey
They
just,
qualify
like,
again.
finds a way to qualify every year. I don't know how
They
do
will
it.
do
but
it.
they do it every
Raikoho will do it by himself
is-
if he has to.
Yeah.
Invest in Raikkonen.
Yeah.
Really
He
Raikoho
will,
is really
he will
good.
do it himself.
Also, Heironi and Egaman are both very solid players.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
I
Very
think
true.
the difference between this team and all of the other teams that we said won't qualify is this team has a carry player and backup players.
Yes.
It's
At
important.
least
Yeah.
3. At least 3. Shinkiro is a very good addition too. Shinkiro is big for them. I think that is a massive improvement from any player that they lost.
Actually, so one thing I want you guys to look at, changing my vote here, because if you look at the teams that are remaining, so UK, Ukraine, Uruguay, USA, Vietnam, and the teams that are in 25-32,
I agree.
I feel
I agree.
Turkey beats all of those teams.
I agree.
And I don't think any other team
Right.
slots in there.
Not all of them, but
Not all of
I
them.
agree that
Right.
they might make a push.
But we've
There are
got
also
two
teams to
options.
move down.
There's also
Yeah,
two
we've got teams to
remaining-
move
there's also-
down, and we got second and third to fill.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We've got
I think we've
one
only got
team
third
that
to fill.
We've got we have one team that has to move down as of current, and we still need to put one more team in 17th to 24th. So it's a question of, I
think
mean,
all of
there
the
are some teams that we also put there very early that are gonna
Yeah.
fluctuate.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Looking at the remaining teams, UK, USA are above top 16.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure you don't you don't move anyone down from that top 16 because you need to fill 2
Yeah.
and 3. So
But we do have 3 teams in 5-6 right now. So
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that's the
what-
one.
oh,
that's
that's
the
true.
one
Yeah.
team that. That's the one
Actually.
team that has to
Ah,
go down right now.
You're right. Okay.
yeah. So we
We,
need
we need
one
to
spot-
either find
one
a team
to
that
move
goes
down.
up if we don't.
Let's
Okay.
continue placing, and I guess we can.
Yeah.
move after.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's do that. So that goes in 25. Ukraine.
oh, you did this in.
You skip.
Did you? Skip
Oh, is it?
somebody?
It's kind of in alphabetical order.
I mean, I can just sure UK. Sorry
No,
guys,
I
UK.
see. I mean, I see on the list it's
On the
different.
list.
On my import list. Well, we can just do UK first. It's fine.
AK.
UK. Karthi coming back.
Okay.
Gemsy is a god of aim.
UK has such a good
You-
roster, man.
You really think we can get third?
Yes.
Every time, dude.
Hold on. You lost a couple of matches for players just not showing up last year as well. So the placement that the UK got last year is, I think, significantly off. At least a round or two from what it could have been.
We had a chat in our team, and silently, I would be happy if we beat top 16 just because that's what we got last year. We all did think that we can get third. It is possible. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. I think we are a top 8 team at the very least.
I've heard this
There's
before.
there's so much improvement here, though. Look at it this way. I mean, all right, Doomsday and Ventus, very good players. Not even on the same realm as Karthi. Gemsy is an outstanding aim player. Kingling is probably 4 times as good as he was last year.
Absolutely. Majora to Voss.
Blue will hopefully show
despite-
up to matches. Majora is way better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Literally every player on this roster has gotten so much better. Last year was such a big anomaly, and I think the UK this year like goes back to the 2019 form. I really do.
So
I think
if
Mad's
you're looking at it,
Kingling.
Blue's almost halved his rank. Malteser's more than halved his rank. Kingling, Majora, Voss have all gained rank, and that's not to mention their tournament skill sets. So they've not stagnated, they've improved, and they've improved on tournament skill sets as well. We've got Carthy coming back, who topped tryouts, despite
Good to
not
hear.
being active in the tournament scene for the last 2 years. Comes back, plays Drenched, plays Yuki Aim, I think. I'm not too sure on that one actually. And then Gemsy, who I will just leave to be chaotic and crazy.
I
think
Top
I
5,
think we have a
6
good
at the
shot at
least.
third.
At the
I think-
least, top 5, 6. I don't think anywhere below that is even acceptable.
Where I
I don't see a
will-
world. I don't see a world where any team other than the consensus top 2 and maybe Australia beats UK. I don't see
agree.
them getting below top 4. I don't think that's a possible world. And I think just based on tournament history and the expected level of performance, and the fact that the person who's in this call right now talking with us is on that team, I don't see a world where they lose to Australia. Especially with the changes Australia made this year.
Australia has also blundered every year,
Yeah.
and as much as we'd like to believe in them that with the upgrades they have this year, they can make a push for 4th, we are grasping for a fishing line there. Like, it is a thread that we are reaching for Australia to push them up there with their experience.
I
I'm
would
still
love
on
to
the
say-
Indonesia and Chile hype trains. I still think that those two teams are actually phenomenal this year, and that is why I have UK Australia in 5, 6, and Indonesia Chile in 3rd and 4th respectively.
You are throwing.
Sorry, not sorry.
I am
Sorry,
sorry,
not sorry.
Chance in hell
All right,
that Chile
Indonesia.
gets 4th.
Indonesia, Indonesia is up there. Chile, you are absolutely going on
There is a
something
0%
that doesn't
chance.
exist right there.
Still, yeah, I think Chile.
You are rating
still
Chile
do
far
deserve
too
the
high.
5, 6.
They deserve the 5, 6, but
So we've got to
putting them
move some
higher
stuff
than that
around.
is not possible
Uh-huh.
in
We
my
know.
mind.
Okay. So I think the fair thing to do for the time being is to put UK at 4th, and then we'll discuss the order afterwards.
Sure.
fair.
Yeah,
Whatever. It's
Yep.
fine.
Fine.
I think that's fine.
All right, because we don't have that many teams remaining.
Right.
Let's go back, I guess, to Ukraine. Spoilers, I guess we already showed Ukraine. Yeah, do we know anyone here? Any of the new players?
Criterion.
Magnata's been doing
there is
really
name
well.
change. Some of
Criterion's
these are
good.
name changes.
Dench is
They have
good.
some
Kug is
players.
good.
This team's solid.
I think they qualify again.
I think
I
they
think-
qualify again.
I think they
agree.
qualify for sure. I think that's like a foregone conclusion. I think the real question is whether they win a match this year or not, because they went 0-2 last year, but they went to, I think, a tiebreaker, right, in first round against South Korea of all
yeah.
teams. And then they
I
got
think
blown out.
that was
but then they
the
got blown
early
out by
round
Chile. So
consistency,
yeah,
though.
that was just that weird early round thing.
Well, I mean, Chile's just that good, so of course it makes
Nice.
Guys, I'm starting to think Dio's a little bit biased.
this Chile bias is actually the most
Dio will
I've
not
ever
be
heard in my life.
commentating Chile's matches this year. I am sorry.
unfortunate.
I think Ukraine qualify, but I don't think they get much past qualifiers.
Yeah, they would have to play outstandingly well to push past that 25.
It's another one where it kind of just depends on who they play against in the first
Yeah.
round or two.
Yeah,
like
I
it's
don't
bracket luck whether or not they win a match.
Yeah.
All right.
Even so, it's a fair bet.
They've got some very, very good players. They've played.
You even have teams in there, like-
so they've got the morale together.
Well, even like Mexico is in that 25 to 32, and this team does not beat Mexico's roster.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the big boys. Let's continue the Germany conversation.
Ah, yes.
All right.
I'm getting this out of the
so-
way for now because I mean
This
I
is
think
tough.
that the result is obvious, but I mean we did discuss
Yeah.
it earlier, so let's continue on that.
Oh, I
there's-
have so much to say about this roster.
Then go for it. Go for it. What do you have to say about this roster?
Go
Well,
ahead.
Aaron, you were gonna start talking. I don't want to cut you off. Say what you need to first.
So there's no Vaxe. Obviously, that's like the big thing, and I mean, we could just throw that out immediately. Vaxe is the ultimate OSU tournament player wild card that you can just throw in any map, any match. Doesn't matter if he hasn't played in 6 months. Doesn't matter if he hasn't played in 2 years. He's going to top score every single map you put him in for, and it just doesn't matter. So that's the biggest loss any team can possibly have in a player. That being said, the U.S. has a couple of the newly best tournament players in the world. When you add in like Utami and Takedo, you add in this big X factor in Arison, who's one of the top 2 probably speed players in the tournament.
So happy to see him.
You also, and I don't want to understate this because I think this actually matters, and I'm curious what other people's opinions are.
You're gonna say what I think you're gonna say.
This is the single worst mental team that could ever be assembled in
Oh my god, yes.
This team has Fiery Rage, they have Arison, they have Exarch, they have Taquito, they have Utami. They are going to tilt off the face of the earth if anything goes wrong. It is going to be ugly if Chill Hypno and Fancy
This is why I let him say it first.
Maybe Aryu can't get them sorted out, because if anything goes wrong, this is the worst mental team you could possibly put together, and I'm really scared for something bad happening if that occurs.
This is the team. This is why I let you talk first, because I knew I was gonna say that, and I knew you've been waiting to say that because we've talked about it so many times. This team is off the charts. Outstanding players. They're insane at this game. They have the skill necessary to do whatever the hell they want to do, but the mental will ruin them on certain matches. I would also like to point out to the fact that they've made insane additions to the roster this year that are switches for some very good players as well, given the circumstances. There's also players that are very good on this roster that I would still regard as wild cards. Taquito is an outstanding player. He has been great in all the tournaments he has played recently, and I love Taquito, but he played on the 3WC team for the United States in this past year, and he crashed and burned to the ground by not showing up to half the tournament when they needed him the most in the United States, ending up just blowing up and exploding in that tournament. And there was not much they could do about it. They've got wild cards all over the place this year, and Kaplay's deciding not to play didn't really help them, and the situation with Rectagon didn't help them, and Vaxay we've already gone over, so I could just keep going over redundancies here, but everything about this roster has both made me super happy for the people that have made the roster, but is slightly disappointing in what I think I am going to see. Like, I am mentally preparing for something to happen here, because I think this is the year they will lose it.
There's an imposter Mogus.
There is an imposter Mogus.
So based on the note of the mental of the team, this team is going to win 5-0 in the first round. This team is going to get taken to tiebreaker 6-5 in the second round, tilt off the face of the earth, and no-show the second match of losers bracket.
Oh, Lord.
I don't think they would.
They're going to have 3 players show up.
That's wild. I don't.
That's almost as wild as Arnold full comboing every map in qualifiers and getting Peru to qualify.
It's pretty close.
You know, future's not the present.
I think, I think objectively they top 2, and I don't think that anyone's trying to pretend that there's a world where they don't top 2, because you still have consensus several of the best tournament players in the world. You have more experience than any other country, basically, or at least as much experience as any other country. The skill is there. They're actually, I would almost argue that they're better rounded this year, because they added Taquito and Utami, which fills in for what they were bad at last year, which was low AR, and certain hidden stuff. Arison, like I said, he comes in. Yeah, and they add Digital Hypno back, which is to speak to the mental issue again, Digital Hypno is insane mental. He is super strong.
He has a hard job ahead of him, though.
Yeah, the best
majority of the time. So I think if Germany has less than a perfect day in grand finals, I still think the United States wins. But I would, despite being American, I would love to see this Germany squad. I think it'd be super cool to see them win. But I think this USA they're going to be going in expecting nothing less than grand finals, and planning on grand finals, and planning on winning grand finals. And I think it's just going to be fun to see what happens in that match.
So, I mean, speaking of mental, right? If you take the context of last year, where they clean sweep through basically the entire tournament, other than one map in round of 32, I think, something like that. Literally just no losses up until grand finals. And then Germany takes them to tiebreaker. What does this team do about that, right? That mental point is super important, because in the context of that team, I don't think they would have... It might have not resulted in the same result, if you had these players playing instead. So
yeah,
that's also the first time in a while that the US had really been
challenged.
notably challenged.
Since
Yeah.
2018 Grand Final? Would
Right.
have been the last time before that?
So, at the same time, especially in the context of losing Vaxei, I don't think that this roster is, for lack of a better word, going to be quite as overconfident going into grand finals as they were last year and in 2019.
Yeah.
I think that the three players that we are talking about to balance the mental in Fancy Lad, Aryu, and Digital Hypno are all very well aware of that fact and are going to be pushing for the team to practice, to be very solid going into the grand finals pool, and to not have the same types of mistakes that happened last year happen in grand finals. Because to the point about mental, if that does happen this year, they absolutely lose it. And I agree with you. I don't agree that it happens at all. I think they go in well practiced enough this year and not overconfident, humbled a little bit by last year maybe, and put in the practice and hard work to make it so that that type of situation does not come about. Even if it does, I think the fact that they will likely acknowledge what went on last year means that there is likely going to be some preparation for if that type of situation happens. This is a team with the long-standing leadership with some of the absolute best tournament players in the world. Fiery Rage, I think this is his 6th year on the roster. Say what you will about mental. You play for OWC for 6 years, you are not going to have that many nerves when you are on the grand final stage once again as a player on this roster, and you have really, really strong leaders on this team to rally them around what can go better if they do have anything go wrong in that last round.
Yeah, I mean, they could make the push for first, and again, I don't think anyone would ever question it if the United States got to grand finals and put up the match of their lives and ended up pulling out first. I don't think that's a question in anyone's minds, but with the potential that they have, and it's not just bad mental for the United States. It's not just a rough patch that they're going to go through. The players that we're referring to, in some senses, have explosive mental. They will go, and it is visible. It shows. It carries with the team. And, it shows on stream for some of these players. And that's something that is going to be an uphill battle for the entire tournament. And I don't doubt that the players that are there can maybe wrangle them in a little bit, but the United States has traditionally been a team that has been able to fight through bracket resets if necessary. They've done it time and time again for whether it's 4WC, 3WC, OWC, all the tournaments that, were for the restrictions, but this is their most difficult challenge they are going to face in a very long time.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement, actually. We're kind of just spending some time discussing, and again, just to remind if the people didn't catch the discussion on Germany, I think we were all also in agreement that this year's roster was their best one yet, and so if the last year was close, what does that make it for this year, right? So in context to all of this conversation, it's important to remember that. I think if they were challenged last year, I think they're looking to be challenged even more. So, but I do think it's mostly mental. It could go either way. I think, that's great. That's great. If it's actually as close as we think it is, and it's just based off of a non-gameplay thing like mental, that's fantastic. I want to watch that right now.
Also,
I think it go on.
Okay, I was just gonna say real quick, as we were probably going to the next team, I still will say year after year, it is ridiculously remarkable that the USA is replacing 5 players, bringing in 4 new players, and we are still saying they're consensus top 2 without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Crazy country. I think going back to what I said about having team spirit, Canada, Germany, they have this team atmosphere, and that is going to be possibly the downfall of USA, is if that team atmosphere gets marred by those bad mental players. And I know for a fact I've had awful mental for tournaments in the past, and I've let it affect my team, and I've noticed, if I'm having a bad day and I'm being really vocal about it, the team generally does tend to perform worse. So if any one of these players starts getting vocal about how bad they're playing, it could have a knock-on effect to others who also think they're underperforming a little bit, but are not performing as well as these players who are being put in for the maps and are saying they're playing bad. It could just completely domino everything. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Good discussion. 2 teams remaining, so we'll touch on those real quick, and then we'll go back. That was the United States. That was like 10 minutes or something. That was a long discussion. Well,
Happens.
Worth it.
Very interesting team this year.
Very worth it for that team.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have some more about the other top teams too, as we got to settle that out. But 2 teams to go for now. So Uruguay, 3 replacements.
As good as Rebo is, they don't qualify.
They did not qualify last year, and they got.
I
like,
disagree. I think
41st.
3rd place.
They were.
All right,
yeah,
okay.
right. Just we don't have anybody
Fair
in
play.
third.
Right.
Yeah, they were pretty far down too. Like they were like 10 spots out of qualifying last year, and this team is not any better. Unfortunately, I don't think. I would like them to prove me wrong because I have known some Uruguayan players who are cool guys, but like I just don't think, especially losing Fox is like pretty damaging. Right? Like, he was really good.
Yeah.
So I think it's a rough go for them, unfortunately.
All right, listen. Hear me out. 3 new players. 3rd
Here we go.
place.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
100%
All right.
Yeah.
Do you feeling me here?
Believable.
No.
Believable.
No.
All right, the last remaining team now, Vietnam, who was also did not have a great result last year, but
yeah, they finished
couple
one
of
spot
changes.
below Uruguay last year, and we are now out of spots in DNQ.
Yeah,
so we have to move somebody up because Vietnam does not qualify, and somebody else has to move
Belgium.
up from not qualifying. And I think it's
Belgium, I think, they have
Austria,
the early
Belgium,
round.
New Zealand.
Tuan, Uichan, Liuchi are all very good players, and the rest of this
Yeah.
roster is not that bad, but I don't think qualifying is out of the question for them. Like, even compared to rosters like Belgium, I don't think that this team is actually, like, demonstrably very much worse.
I
Especially
still
Tuan, Uichan.
think.
I don't think they've gotten better
they're
though.
very-
Yeah, I still.
Those
I
2
still
players
think
are in on
saying
every
that.
map.
Yeah, I still think saying that they are still worse than Belgium.
Yeah.
Thus, Belgium qualifies over Vietnam.
All right, then we make that swap. It seems like we're outweighed.
Yeah,
We're
I
outweighed.
think that's
For
that's
Belgium?
fine. I think Belgium 25
Yeah.
32. Also, well, actually, there's room for 2, right? Because we still need a 17 through 24.
We have to knock
Yeah, but we need to
down.
drop
Or do we have to
someone.
move
We need to
somebody
drop.
down? Oh,
we need
that's
to
right,
drop
okay,
teams.
alright.
Well, we also need a 3rd place team. So someone.
Well, we have 2
two
and
and
4.
four.
We have 2 and
Right.
4.
Oh
We have
yeah,
2 and
someone
4th and
slides up.
3 and
Yeah.
5th,
Alright,
6th.
so-
Somebody
Yeah.
spots up,
all right.
somebody
So
spots
let's
down.
just start with this for now. So let's
Yeah.
replace those. So now all the teams are in. That's 51 teams. We have to wait. No. Yes. So we have to move.
Yeah,
We have to make one of them qualify, and then we have to clear up a spot in 5/6.
Do we want to work our way from top
We have
down?
to work. Yeah, we have to go top down. I
Top
think,
down.
basically.
Yeah, we got to slide
Yeah.
up first. Yeah.
Top down. Okay.
So we need a
It's-
3rd place.
It's UK 3rd. I think it's UK 3rd. Based on the roster and all the improvements that have been made.
I
would-
will not disagree with you.
I mean, I would love
I
to
would
refute that, but
disagree.
I can't. I think we beat Australia.
Yeah, I
With-
think.
with
think
what I
you-
was with what I
yeah.
was looking at Australia and saying, Machine has been a little bit AFK in general tournaments this year. The teams that the Aussies are usually in are the teams that have Wolf in them, and they tend to be the piss around teams. They're not too serious about it all.
I'm kind
I-
of tempted to take a different order to this.
Okay.
I
Let's
think.
hear it.
I mean, sorry, I cut you off. You can continue your point on Australia. My bad. You can continue.
I just don't think Australia really have it in them to commit to a tournament properly.
Australia has not proven it to us in OWC ever, and I don't know if the 1 player advantage that they have in MREC this year is
Yeah.
enough for them to start proving it to us. Like, they've built
mean,
a
but
reputation for themselves of just crashing and burning.
Unfortunately.
Saying that, we said that about Russia. Russia always underperformed, and then they got 5th, 6th one year and went crazy in bracket, but then ran up against USA.
Okay, so
So it's tough. I think Australia 4th is good because that's an improvement from last year. But I don't
so
think.
hold on. So hold on. Before we do all that, I think we had a discussion on both of these teams, but I think we should start from 5/6 and determine who's the team out and if they go up or down.
It's
because-
Chile and they go down
Chile
somewhere.
down. Chile down.
You are
It's Chile
so,
and they
so
go
wrong.
down
Indonesia
somewhere.
down.
but I
Or
don't know
does
where
a
they
team
down.
go
No,
up?
I would never. No, never Indonesia down.
No.
They are
You
so
don't
much
think
stronger
any of
than
the
you think.
5/6 teams beat UK or Australia? Like 100%.
I
No,
think
I'm-
both Indonesia.
I think there's
and
an argument
Chile
for
have the
Indonesia
potential.
that go up.
Indonesia, I would make an argument for, but that's it.
I think both Indonesia and Chile beat Australia. Actually, I think that Australia.
Yeah.
And is that Canada
Both-
that goes
both
down
both
then?
is
Bro.
both is too strong. Both is too
Bro.
strong. Way too strong.
Is that Canada that goes down then? Because we were all really uncertain about Canada being 5th, 6th. About I said they would be team spirit and
Canada's
would be
new
up quite
players
high,
have
but-
Canada's new players have so much in them that I couldn't even envision them lower than that.
Okay.
I'm
So,
sorry,
I think
but
Sorry, go for
Nappy
it.
intercambing as a two-player duo. Where?
doesn't matter.
Okay, go look
They're
at
third and- they're
Skydiver,
third and
Skydiver Vino. What are you
Oh boy, here we
talking
go.
about? Like,
Their third
I
and
think
fourth will
Matthew
not be
and Camping
competitive
beat
with the
both of
third
them.
and fourth.
And I would agree if the third, fourth was Indonesia. I think that the rest of the players on both of those teams are extremely solid.
all right,
regardless.
how about this?
Gonza
Why don't we
is
just move South Korea up to
extremely
third
solid.
and be done with it? And then-
I don't know about that
Fair
one.
enough. Fair enough.
So, actually though, how about this? So
Okay.
if
So
UK
it has to go
is
to bottom then.
if UK is third, what if Indonesia is fourth and Australia goes back down to 5, 6? So we figure out from there. Is that a
think
common
everyone
agreement?
here
If you
likes
look at the head-to-head, I think that makes sense, right? Like there's a
I'm
clear
okay
like,
with moving Indonesia up. Indonesia, I think, deserves to go up if any of them do.
And I do actually have Indonesia third on my personal list, so I agree Indonesia moves up.
All right, we all good for that? No,
Okay.
no take backs. All right, let's do this. Let's do that, and let's do that. Oops.
I don't know.
There we go. All right. So that's our top 4.
Thoughts on the name MREC being on a 5th, 6th team?
That's so
Thoughts on
weird.
the name Emrek being on a 5th, 6th team last
Thoughts on the
year?
next Chubbuck box being top
was not-
12?
Yeah,
was-
Comic Box is yeah.
He was not the same player a year ago as he is now, though. He's gotten so much.
I
better
mean, look at it
since
this
the
way.
last
We're also
year.
putting Flying Tuna in 7/8, and that in
Yeah.
and of itself is
This is the
like
hardest
blasphemy.
clump of players, man. I swear to God, 6 to 12
One
always
player does not a team
super
make.
hard.
Why don't we work from the bottom?
Yeah,
up?
then
I think
have to go
this is
bottom.
where we go
One
from the
team down
bottom.
from 13, 16,
Yeah.
right?
I think
Yeah.
Philippines
It's
drops.
Philippines.
Philippines
yeah,
drops.
Philippines
down.
drops.
Yep.
And then,
And then from
I think it's
9,
Sweden
12,
down.
it's Brazil.
I think Brazil is still really good.
I would drop
I
would drop Poland first before Brazil. Unironically.
I think
We've
out
had
of
a-
those,
I think I would drop
out of
Sweden.
those teams, I think it's Sweden because I think Brazil is still really solid. Yes, they lost Nissan, but they do bring in what did we say, Defans and who's the other one that's really good that's new this year?
Brazil.
I
Tom
just
Scarito?
don't. I
on the edge of playing this year. We've talked so much about team mental that I think it's worth bringing up again that the players on Brazil this year are not exactly super excited about the roster changes that have happened. As much as Defans and Excurito are very good, the losing Nissan is definitely, at least from what I have heard from the players on their team, affecting the mental overall. So if we're talking about team mental this much and placing as high of an importance on it as we are, I think it is very reasonable to move Brazil down from there. And if
Yeah.
not Brazil, I would
I
move
would be
Poland
okay
down.
with
I think
that.
Sweden is
Um,
definitely.
I
up
would
there.
move. I would move Brazil down before Sweden. I think Sweden has a significantly more rounded roster
What
as
if
a whole.
What if you move them both down and you move Romania to
Throwing.
9-12?
No, I don't think
It gets,
so.
it gets
No,
hard.
no.
It gets hard here, but I think the cool thing about this format is that there's a. Last year there was like, okay, whatever, you could do whatever, like they could both coexist, but no, in this place every team beats every other team below them, right? Like
Yeah.
they need
If-
to get there. So
If anything, Russia would knock someone down, but that would be a whole different story. I don't know what they do with that.
I have to ask, has Sanjilift joined the OWC server yet? Because I know a few days ago
Sanjilift
he had not.
Torneo.
Sanjilift
actually. I mean, that's something to take into account, right? They have,
He
if that happens again, 7 players. So,
has not.
okay. So
How about we just put
7-player roster.
Australia in 13 to 16 and call it a day?
I think that's. You know what?
We could
I'm
always
okay
put
with
Peru
this.
first and just have Arnold solo carry every map, full combo everything. Possible.
Honestly,
it is possible.
Here's what I wonder. Why don't we slide? No, actually, I was about to say something stupid. Don't listen to me.
I think Brazil down, Japan down, Canada down, and
agree.
that's the roster.
Brazil, Japan,
Well,
Canada, then you.
that's-
And so you drop what, Australia? To 7/8? No, sorry,
not-
Canada.
No,
My bad, my bad.
yeah, Canada
Not in a
7-8.
million
Canada
years.
7-8.
My bad, my bad. Yeah, I did not click command. Okay. What do we think about that? So Brazil down, Japan down.
Just shift that left row of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 down. Just
Yeah.
that entire
Yep,
left
actually.
row.
We all
Dude,
agree
no
with
way
that.
Chile is in the same tier as Australia, man.
I
I don't understand.
Y'all just do not know.
I
I
don't
think
understand.
Chile is either 7/8
believe
or
in
5/6. Chile is either 7/8 or 5/6, and there's not a question in my mind that they don't at least belong in those two. But Matthew is just better than every player on Canada without a question, and Intercambing is just as good as the best players on Canada without any question. And then there's Gonza and a bunch of other people that are just far better.
Yeah, Gonza,
I mean, people
Danielle
are
as
overlooking
third and fourth are
Danielle.
incredible. Yeah.
That is
People
true.
are
Yeah, Danielle is
overlooking-
also, yeah.
People are overlooking the players that have played on the roster before, even like Zax Raid, No 37, TFGE, and the new additions have to bring something to the roster to be, picked over IGN, Ritze. You know, yeah, they're good. They're good this year. They have to be good this year.
We talked about, Aaron, you specifically talked about Vaxe is the single best tournament player that there is, just full combos every single map, and is the single biggest loss upon removal that a team could have. Intercambing was quite literally 5,000 points away from tiebreaker against Vaxe last weekend, on a 7.9 star pool on Grand Finals.
That's a
That
1v1. I'm sorry, but that's irrelevant. That's a 1v1.
All right. Intercambing,
Right, but if
Matthew
he's
winning
in
YSC over
for
the weekend
every
against
map.
MREC as well. Or, I'm sorry, second in YSC against MREC. Zazrid, TFGE, all very solid. Danielle and Gonza are the third and fourth best players on that team. And Montenegro was also a very solid addition. Number 37 was in last year. This roster is absolutely contending for top 6. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are crazy.
Yeah, they're there.
I don't know. You guys can all tell me I'm wrong in like 8 weeks or whatever when we get there and they get that high. I just
Hold
don't
on,
see
let
a
me
world
put it in
where-
my
I
calendar.
just don't see a world
And I mean,
where they're.
So
where
what's
they're
really
playing
going to happen?
look
No,
at
no,
the,
Aaron is right.
well.
No. He is so right. There's no way
No, he
Chile
is.
and Australia is in the same level if Australia gets top 16.
Oh my god.
This is what's gonna happen. You know it.
Look
Like-
at the path. Look at the path that that portion of the bracket had, because UK, Indonesia, and Chile were all in the same area of the bracket. UK beat Chile, Indonesia beat UK. Any given time, any given moment, those matches would have gone the other way, like 100%. And that was last year when the rosters were a little bit toned down from what they are now, and what they are now is crazy for all three of those teams. So yeah, I by far put them third, fourth, fifth
Okay.
in any order as well. I don't think the order matters. I think the order's a little bit arbitrary. It depends entirely on the day who wins against who out of those three teams.
Got our full list then. I think we're
I
just
think-
about done. How's it looking?
There are some slight
I
things
can
think we all
I can
disagree
agree to
with,
the
but
gist of
we're-
this, but
we're
I think
pretty
everyone's
solid.
gonna have like a difference or two, right? So
Yeah.
I think if we move France up to 4th, we're in business.
shut up.
Right. Okay.
Honestly, all right. No, I'm gonna be honest. All right,
Peru
let me just
qualifying,
raise it.
guys.
Let me just raise it really quickly. France, we really haven't paid attention to them at all since putting them in 9th to 12th.
No.
For a team that has the most potential that they have had in a very long time.
Listen, man.
Yeah, but they just don't.
How many
match up
times
to
have
the
we been there with
teams
I
France?
that are
also
above them.
I also think putting SK in 7th to 8th is kind of, I mean, we bring up putting Chile and Australia in the same, kind of bracket next to each other. We have also just put Canada and South Korea on the same.
I mean, South
level.
Korea.
We have to
like,
make
if-
arbitrary decisions at this point.
If you're making the arguments that you are for like Chile and Australia, you can make the same argument for South Korea, like with Tuna and Karuna, like
And
they're-
France and
like our Tuna and Karuna in OWC form, like that much worse.
Tuna is
than-
always in form.
Right, like Tuna's ridiculous. Like,
Tuna
you're
is
gonna argue
always
that
there.
Matthew and Intercamping
Karen
are
hasn't
better
been
than
playing
Flying
this year
Tuna?
though.
I don't know. I think he shows up for World Cups. I just kind of expect it out of him, and I think their backing players are just as good. Like I think they're on the same tier as like a Chile. I think that's the point where like these 4 or 5 teams are just literally a coin flip on any given day, depending on who matches up with whom.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
think-
Karcher's ridiculous this year too, so I don't know. I mean,
The other thing about it is you have to look at these later stage teams now as being 1 or 2 man carries, because map pools are going to get difficult around about that stage where you're going to be looking at teams against each other not FCing every map. And when you have players that can FC every map still at that stage, you've got maybe 4 South Korea Flying Tuna, but then for Chile you've got Mathy Intercambing, which is pretty much 2 against 1 FC on every map. And you look at all of these teams, you try and like you try and come up with a roster that will FC every map for them. The later you go, the harder that's going to be. Which is why Intercamming Mathy stands above Emrek on his own, with maybe supporting combos, but no real FC potential from that team.
I think I would take the
Same way.
I would take the opposite approach to that, where I think once you get to a point where like every single team in that range in the list has like 2 or 3 carries, it's about everyone else at that point, I think, because if every team is going to have that, then it's about like what you can fill, and if the team is even built to support those players, right? Like sometimes you'll have a player that is completely insane, especially 1v1 2v2s, you know, but if you put them in a 4v4 context, yes, it's a crazy player, but do you have the other 3 players to play around him? You know, that's not always true.
I mean, while you are right, it does still come down to that 2 FC versus 1 FC plus 3 good combos. What is the score difference in that? Is a good combo like all that much more when an alright combo would be 300k and a good combo would be 400k? Score v2 isn't entirely based on combo and accuracy, right? It climbs slowly, and then you get to the end of the map and it goes from 500k suddenly to 1,000,000 points in the span of 30 seconds. So you need players that aren't just going to miss in the middle and get 650k. You need, I mean, a miss, 50 combo in, 100 combo in drops you 200k score.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
And there's no way around that.
I think, is there any continuation of that, or is that, otherwise I think we could probably wrap things up very soon. It's been 3 hours, lads.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the point of splitting hairs where like
Yeah.
the teams are just gonna, it's just whoever performs best on that given day, whoever's like most prepared on a given pool and does, you know, and just has their absolute best showing, and there's very little to separate this kind of cluster of teams other than that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's our list. It took a long time to get there. I think this has been the longest production
That was
prediction
good fun,
stream
though.
in
That
a
was
long
good.
time. But yeah, again, there are so many
Lots to
talking
think
points.
about.
Yeah, there are so many talking points and like actual arguments that you could make for like almost every single team on here in either direction. I think it's always super healthy to have that. Like the more like muddy things are, that means the better the tournament is going to be, right? It's going to be really close, even like early stages, even in the lower like stages of this list or whatever, where normally people don't really care about like round of 32 matches or whatever, but even some of those teams are very contentious, right? And maybe not in the winners bracket when they face off against like Germany and USA, but like the first round of losers brackets does start getting pretty interesting. And I think the fact that we did also have kind of difficulties determining who's even qualifying and who's getting like top 24 is going to be pretty indicative of, I think, a good tournament.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, possibly the best tournament since 2018, I think, because
hope.
2018 started getting really stacked that year.
Yeah.
There were so many upsets. There were so many teams that just completely came out of nowhere. And I think this year it's going to be exactly the same.
When we're heavily debating both first, second, and everything, third through maybe 8.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
It's a
that would
solid
not have
tournament,
happened.
late stage, man.
That did
That's-
not happen last year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm
how
really
good
excited.
teams have gotten.
That is awesome.
It speaks a lot to how much the tournament scene has really grown over the past few years and how many like high-level tournaments there are, because there's so many more players that are getting the opportunity to play more tournaments and pop off and get a lot more like practice and experience, which is really, really cool to see.
All right. Well, I think this is about where we can cut things off. It was a pleasure doing this. Thank you so much for joining. You guys had fun?
I love this tradition.
Yes, me too.
Even if I do have to stay up till 4 a.m. That's my 9 a.m. lecture tomorrow
Come on,
morning.
it was only 4 a.m. this time, dude.
It wasn't 7 a.m.
Come on.
Yeah, I remember sat there underneath a blanket, shivering away, drinking coffee.
If it works, it works.
I also really do appreciate. I did hear a lot, sometimes directly, sometimes very indirectly, that a lot of the people watching were always very interested in this. So it's very fun that this has become a bit of a yearly tradition, and a lot of people are interested in it, right? So thank you again so much for being us today, and thank you guys for watching and showing interest, not just in this, but also the World Cup as a whole. Competitive OSU is always a blast. And I think we all can say it's been very interesting, and we hope that it will be, especially in the World Cup this year, right? So, yeah, that about wraps it up. Any farewell words? We've had enough words.
It's gonna be
Good luck on Twitter.
GLHF to all the teams.
Good luck, have fun, yeah.
That's it. I expected Dio to shill for Chile a little bit more.
They said Chile top 4.
I mean, I don't. What
Chile
else
top
can you
4.
end with? Check out the stream for the qualifiers results and round of 32 map pool showcase on Sunday evening, and yeah. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Again, as a closer reminder, USA tilts. France is top 3, Australia is top 8, and Chile wins.
Every map in qualifier.
Chile has Jesus on their team. Yeah,
Goodbye, everybody.
Chile has
Thank you for
4
watching.
copies of Jesus.
See you this weekend.